everybody. It's 2026. Oh, I want to apologize first of all because this was meant to come out before 2026, before New Year's, even before Christmas. But as you may guess, I got busy. Christmas came along, family, New Year, and yeah, now I'm here trying to catch up with this. I hope, because I'm recording this on a Thursday, which usually means it's meant to be coming out today, but I saw this is going to be a little bit longer. This might be a 2-hour video, who knows, depending how long each pod takes. And on stream, I already reached the 3000s. I finished the first 10 of the 3000s. But I promised as a subscriber special, when I reach 600 subscribers, I will read the details of the doctors that were all linked in SCP-200, the very first of the 2000s. So we're actually having, this is kind of fitting. We get to, as a new year, little, let's just say, reflecting of the experiences we had. We're going back one more time to the previous series 3, and explore it one more time. I'm pretty sure I will explore it a lot more times in the future anyway, because a lot of the, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the subscriber special I have left to do all things that I suggested I will do during the series 3 anyway. Yeah. We will come back to series 3 quite often, and I think that's going to be the case with every series. Like, I will see something, be like, I'll get to that another time, and probably like in series like 5, I'll be like, oh yeah, there is a SCP. There is a tale or a part of something from an SCP from series 3 that I meant to read, or series 4. So it's going to happen. But how about we get back into it? There we go. We are back with SCP-200, which was called, let me double check what the name was again. And also, actually, let me also shout out to the author, because I think this was, I think we did shout out by this point. But just to be sure, I'll do it again. No, not 800. 000. There we go. It is Hammer Maiden. Let's open up the page real quick. We can also look at this again. The last one we have from Hammer Maiden was 1780, which is, pardon me for doing all this on live while we're doing it. Oh yeah, it was like the little the little sign, you know, like your name. I forgot what it's called. It's like a little iron, or could be made out of anything. It could be made out of wood. Whether your name is on it in the office, but that like creates a dimension inside your office. Yeah. That's what it was. All right. But hey, so I already, as you can see, I prepared everything up there. I also skimmed a little bit to see what we have to do. I will read the entirety of Incident 0, which are 5 parts. I saw by part 5 there is a bunch of links that leads to either other SCPs or other tales. We're not going to read that. And then we have, for each doctor that's going to be mentioned, with Dr. Christopher Sartune, MD, Biotech Research Development, we have a section here, and so on and so forth. What I probably will do, just for the sake of the video and for the sake of memory, we'll read this part, and then we'll read this, just to like add a little bit of context, even though we're not going to read the whole SCP again, of course. And then there's like one here, then 2 here. So yeah, that we're gonna be busy. But first, we have the Incident 0, which is in the administrator note that says, I want this on permanent record, and I don't rightly care if you think it's an insult to your intelligence. Some things are just this important. My water bottle. Speaking of important, be hydrated is important. This device is absolutely not an excuse to let down or guard or take greater risks with SCP objects or cross-test them, or whatever you might have in mind. Primary containment is still our best chance at survival, otherwise there would be no reason to make the cover-up so extensive. We can only suspend God's disbelief so many times before the universe just says no. And that's the link that leads to Incident 0. And considering what we had to deal with in this past few decades, we may have passed that point already. Former Administrator Dr. William Fritz. And now we're going to read Incident 0. I put my ring on for no fucking reason. Okay, here we go. Incident 0, Part 1. The call, like many of the worst things in life, came at 1 in the morning. Adrian groaned and rolled over in bed, reluctantly separating himself from Beats' warm... Also, so this is like, just a quick heads up. The subscriber special is meant to be just the doctor's, like, tales, basically. But I decided to add Incident 0 to the mix as well. So it's like a double tale that we... Well, it's more than double, as you can see it up here, but it's still like a double price. It's a doctor's and this one. From Beats' warmth and softness and scent. One hand fumbled on the nightstand for the cell phone, nearly knocking a half-drunk glass of water over the dog-eared John Grisham novel. He flipped the phone open, silencing the harsh electronic tones, and put the device up to his ear. Andrews, he said groggily. Talk to me. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Sorry, Adrian, a soft, calm voice said. I must have a wrong number. This is Neil Ghost. I'm looking for Maddox. What? Adrian took a close look at the phone he was holding. Damn, he really had grabbed Beats' phone by accident. No, you got the right number. I'll put Beatrix on the line. He hit the mute button, rolled back over in bed, and shook his sleeping lover's shoulder. Beats, he whispered. Go away. Beats crumpled, pulling the sheets over her head. Can't, it's Ghost. Neil, what the hell does he want? Beats wanted, her voice muffled by the blankets. Don't know, don't care. Andrew shoves the phone into her hand. I'm going to the bathroom. Let me know if something important. Beat let out a low groan. Maddox, she said. No, Neil, I don't want to answer why Andrews has my phone at 1 in the morning. It's none of your business. Adrian yawned and climbed out of bed. He stumbled into the bathroom and took a moment to relieve himself. Morosely? Wait, whoa. How the hell do you say this? Morosely. Okay, morosely, and that means... Oh, is there no fucking explanation in this? I clicked the first link just to see like what it means. But okay, let me... Morosely is in a very unhappy or annoyed way. Gotcha, that makes sense. Mostly staring at himself in the 3/4 length mirror located behind the toilet. Whoever had placed that mirror there hadn't really considered the fact it might have an understanding male urinating. Not that he had anything to be ashamed of or for sure, but still it wasn't enough to make a man feel self-conscious. He kept his eyes locked. A lot of my bathrooms in the UK have mirrors right above the toilet, so I guess I kind of relate, but I don't really find it that bothersome. He kept his eyes locked on his face instead, the face of a 30-something psychology nerd with a crash course in lethal combat under his belt, the eyes of a man who's seen horror and survived it, the body of a pasty, soft, ivory tower intellectual dragooned into becoming a soldier. His eyes, his face, his body. He finished up, flushed, and washed his hand in the sink, flicking his hands dry in the direction of the mirror so that the drops of water distorted his reflection. I wish you wouldn't do that, Beats said. Causes water spots. She stood in the bathroom doorway, her expression troubled. Yeah, I mean, I don't... Even though I said what I just said before, I don't mind telling you guys this. I sit down when I pee. At home, of course. In public, I don't. In public, I'd rather use the urinal because who knows what the hell... Because everybody who doesn't sit down and pee in public, but in the regular toilets, they just all over the place. It's, no. At home, I like being comfortable. I like just sitting down and just, yeah. Sorry, Adrian said. What's up? It's Neil, Beat said, gesturing to her phone. He wants to talk with both of us. Adrian frowned. He tapped his right forearm with his heel of his left hand. Enemy? She shook her head and gave him an open palm wave. Don't understand. Hang on, she said out loud. I'll put on you on speaker. She tapped the button on the phone and put down the bathroom counter. Oh, alright, Neil's voice said. Can you hear me now? Yeah, we hear you, Adrian said. What's up? Adrian heard Neil sigh on the other end of the line. We have a problem, Ghost said. The low drone of the vacuum cleaner was the only sound other than the automated announcement over the airport intercom. She was glad of that. She'd chosen this airport specifically because it was the smallest one in the city, mostly commuter flights and private planes. If all went well, it wouldn't matter, but if things went wrong, the fact might buy her a few precious extra minutes. Her boarding pass was in her jacket pocket and a suitcase was resting by her seat. She had a silver pistol case that didn't hold a pistol as her other carry-on. The clock said that it was 20 minutes until boarding, just like it had the last 4 times she looked. She felt the urge to stand up and walk around. Drawing any kind of attention to herself would be bad, though her heart was pounding, though her palms were sweating, knees were heavy. Mom spaghetti. She stayed seated in her ratty-ass chair, head bowed, trying to look to the world like an exhausted vacationer heading home after a long trip overseas, tired of the world, tired of adventure, looking just for the chance to go home and sleep in her own bed and footsteps. The distinctive thump of heavy-duty boot, soles against linoleum. She stole a glance down the hallway out of the corner of her eye, and her heart sank. There was a man and woman walking towards her, not talking. All of her escape plans died then. No point in trying to run now. She just died tired. She hugged herself tightly as the footsteps get closer and closer. They stopped in front of her. 2 pairs of heavy black combat boots. 1 pair, men's size 12, the other a woman's size 9. You can... Anybody who can, like... estimate what size shoes you have on. You're a freak of nature in a good way. Because that's awesome. That's pretty cool. But at the same time, depending on what the person is, you're a freak of nature. She looked up. Adrian Andrews' face was gone, and his bespectacled brown eyes had a permanent 1,000-yard stare. That was normal for him. Wearing sweatpants and a flannel pajama top wasn't. Adrian usually liked to dress like the academic he once was. All button-down shirts and grey blazers and threadbare slacks. He still carried himself like one, though, hands stuffed in his pocket in a boneless slouch, not the ramrod straight discipline of the trained soldier. Hi, she whispered. Hi, Iris, Adrian said, smiling weakly. You know why we're here, right? Iris Thompson, age 15, also known as SCP 105. Cool. We have 105 back again. Curled up into a ball and began to tremble. Yeah, she whispered, her throat dry and harsh. You here to bring me back? Yeah, Adrian said. We are. Iris swallowed hard. Her throat was dry. Her heart was pounding. Dr. Dendenson, she whimpered, her voice taking a whining edge of desperation. You read his report, right? My powers are gone. I can't do what I used to anymore. She took a deep breath, steadying breath. I'm not an SCP. Iris, Beatrix interrupted. Cut the crap. We know Dendenson falsified his data. He's doing all this right now, by morning. All files will finish their voting and your release order is going to be countermanded. And what if you're wrong? Iris snapped. What if Denson's right and I really don't have any powers anymore? What are you going to do? Lock me up again until I die? Her voice echoed through the empty airport lounge, suspiciously empty, in fact. She glanced around quickly. The entire place was empty. No more janitor vacuuming the carpet. No more tired old lady manning the solitary ticket booth. The only ones in the room now were Beatrix, and herself. Iris, Beatrix said, listen to me. She dropped to one knee in front of the younger girl. I know life on site is hard. It's fucking torture. Language, Adrian interjected. Don't you language me? Would you both shut up and let me talk? Beatrix snapped. I don't want to talk, Iris retorted. I want to go home. There was a soft chime over the intercom system, though the wide glass windows and a small commuter plane could be seen approaching the gate. And that's my right. Iris picked up her suitcase and camera. Goodbye. Beatrix looked up at Adrian and over at her approaching plane. She made a small gesture with her hands. Then Adrian replied up with a shake of his head and a gesture of his own. She didn't seem to like that because she stood up and walked a few steps, staring out the window at the airport tarmac. All right, Adrian said calmly. We tried to do this the Beatrix way, now we do it my way. He threw a Polaroid into Iris' lap. It showed the interior mechanism of a small caliber pistol. Iris looked up, horrified. Adrian pulled a pistol from his pocket and put it to his temple. I'm going to count to 3, he said, and then I'm going to shoot myself in the head. You can stop me if you use your powers. Iris laughed nervously. Adrian, stop. This isn't funny. I'm not joking, Iris. If Beats and I go home without you, we are good as dead. May as well get a head start. 1. Adrian, please. Iris begged. She got her to her feet. Don't make me do this. You don't want to go back. Fine, but if you really want to go home that badly, you do it with my blood on your conscience. 2. Adrian! Iris screamed, stop! 3. There was a hollow click. Iris dropped to her knees, holding the photograph in one hand. The firing pin of Adrian's pistol fell from her other hand and clattered to the floor with a gas-like clink. Beatrix was there almost immediately. She grabbed Iris around the shoulders and held her close as her tears rose and she began to sob. I mentioned multiple times how the humanoid SCPs have it the worst, right? They just have to suffer so much because they have a power that they didn't ask for. Some of the human SCPs, because humanoid and human are 2 different things. But some, like the powers, like the anomalous effects and all that, like that one priest who, like, you know, is like, oh, God has gifted me with powers, I can heal your child, but only for like a certain amount, and it gets worse again, and he then makes you believe he shifts the blame towards you by saying like, you didn't pray hard enough, you didn't believe in God hard enough. That's clearly somebody who relishes in having an anomalous effect. My left eye. That's a piece of shit. But like with this one, with Iris, it's just, yeah. They never asked this. Aiden cried to put his plastic pistol back in his pocket and walked away. His hands shook so bad that he could barely open his phone up and dial a number that didn't exist in any phone book in the world. Ghost here, the voice on the other end said, report. Adrian Andrews, Mobile Task Force Omega 7, Adrian said. Agent Maddox and I have just captured a confirmed humanoid anomaly. We open file SCP-105 and disregard prior data suggestion loss of anomalous abilities. Understood, Agent. Ghost said, we will prepare a containment cell for your return. A pause. Was there anything else? Was there any... Adrian breathed deeply, biting back the curse on his lips. Neil, tell the O5s if they ever ask us to do something like that again, Beatrix and I will both tender our resignation. That was the worst fucking thing I've ever had to do, and that includes vivisecting live cats. Adrian, you know I'm doing the best I can. This latest incident doesn't help. Neil, Danson did what he did because he is not inhuman enough to treat a bunch of teenage kids like zoo animals. You steal people away from their families, lock them up in cells, and treat them like... Look, Adrian, I understand. Believe me, I do. But we can't talk about this on an unsecure line. Get back to Site 17 ASAP, and we'll figure out what to do then. Another pause. I'll do what I can with the O5s, but if Iris doesn't come back to us, I have no leverage at all. Do you have a transport? Oh, Fritz said he had a heli waiting for us at the pad. We'll fly into the nearest site and wait there for the instructions. Do that, Ghost said. There was a long pause. Look, for what it's worth, Adrian, I think we have a solid chance of at least setting the less dangerous humanoid anomalies socialized a bit more often. We use this incident as a demonstration of how isolation isn't helping the emotional states. Save it for when we meet in person. I'm technically still on leave. Andrew's out. No one noticed the unmarked black helicopter at the helipad or the 3 passengers walking across the tarmac. That was as it should be. Adrian carried her bags as Beatrix helped Iris up in the helicopter. The teenager movements were listless, sullen. Not surprising. Where to? The pilot asked as Adrian climbed in after the 2 women. I don't give a shit, Adrian said. Just get us to the closest foundation site as fast as you can. Yellowstone then, the pilot said. Be a couple of hours. Whatever. If you need me, I'll be in the back. Adrian left the cockpit and took his seat in the helicopter cargo area. Iris was curled up in her seat, hugging her knees. She gave him an angry glare at the rotor silently spun up. She hates your guts, you know. Reed sat down next to Adrian as the vehicle lifted off. So long as she's alive, she can hate all my guts, from my pancreas all the way to my colon. Aren't you going to talk to her? It won't do any good. She hates me. You talk to her. Why do I have to be the one to counsel the angry, rebellious teenage girl? Beatrix grumbled. You're the trained psychologist. Yeah, but you're a woman. Aren't women supposed to be like, you know, naturally nurturing and shit? Says a trained psychologist. Wow, good job. Where did you get your training from a cereal box, my guy? Beats punched me in the arm hard. Asshole. Just for that, you can do all the paperwork on this one. She walked to the other side of the cabin to sit next to Iris, who pulled away and pressed up against the cabin's window. Adrian Simon pulled a small red notebook from his pocket. He uncapped his pen and began to write. Retrieval mission a success. I'm listing it as recovered under pain of death from SCP-173. That all sounds good on the report. Adrian Andrews. Adrian awoke from his nap. Lee and so from sleeping, sitting up and buckled into the seat. Andrews, he said in the intercom, go. You asked me to let you know. Oh, sorry, that was Andrews, go. You asked me to let you know when we were 10 minutes out so we could call Yellowstone Mountain. Well, we're 10 minutes out. Yeah, sure, Adrian said. Wait one, I'll come to the cockpit. He unbuckled his harness and made his way to the front of the helicopter. You got an extra headset? Sure, the pilot said. Cruise chief's position over there. Thanks, Adrian picking up the headset and slipping it over his head. Patch me into the side. Which side? The pilot asked. To side. Adrian forward. I can't remember where we had the pilot. I'm not entirely sure, sir. The pilot said, frowning. I could have sworn. Adrian looked out of the front window, his eyes widened. Pull up! He screamed. Ahead of them, a snow-covered mountain flickered like a poor-quality VHS tape and exploded. And this is just incident 0. I mean, part 1. No, it would have been cool if it was like incident 2, but it makes sense. It's all one incident. Adrian Andrews' eyes shut open. Beatrix was leaning over him, a weird expression on her face. His jaw hurt and his teeth tasted like pennies. He sat up, slowly groaning as the world spun, which means he must have been, like he probably bled inside his mouth. The low vibration of the helicopter rotor setting a counterpoint to his throbbing headache. What happened? We hit turbulence, Pete said. You hit your head. I think you're fine, but I want you to lay still for a moment. No, what happened? Adrian repeated. Pete nodded. Volcanic explosion, she said. The world outside was on fire, casting a lurid scarlet light into the helicopter interior. Yellowstone Mountain must have erupted. If it was volcanic, we'd be dead, Adrian insisted. This was existential. He struggled to his feet and leaned over to the pilot's shoulder. Pilot, switch to channel Theta Prime. Sir, there is no channel Theta. The pilot took a second to look at the comm console. Suddenly, there it was, an 11th channel among the 10 marked on the dial. Switching to channel Theta Prime, he said, flipping the switch. There was a burst of static and a man's voice came over the comm system. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? This is... Can anyone hear me? Oh, we can also... No, that doesn't... This does not fit for that. Thank God. Oh, wait. So is this supposed to be like the name? Kind of like how in Kingdom Hearts when like they try to say like a word, it just doesn't come out. Brief to AfroFluff. Run away is... Alright. Doesn't exist anymore, said. I'm all that's left. Also, there's no like, I mean, this could have been like, yeah, there's no... Wait a minute, for God's sake, Adrian. Left. So, this one, I don't fully know what this could be. But this one is definitely for God's sake, Adrian. Maybe. I'm trying to figure out if all these are the same letters, you know? Because here it's a D. Here's also a D. So that's... And that's, for God's sake, that's an N. So don't. So that's don't. For God's sake, Adrian, don't. So for God's sake, Adrian, don't vanish. The voice disappeared, and the last thing the man said vanished from Adrian's memories. An entire foundation side was gone. A man whom he was sure had been close friend no longer existed, had never existed. He couldn't even remember his name. The signal disappeared in a burst of eldritch feedback. So this is the Yellowstone. Yeah, this makes sense. Because the Yellowstone was a whole like reset of like everything. A brief click and the dial set itself back to the number that exists in reality. So, the pilot said, what do we do now? The only thing we can do, Adrian thought. Try to take over the world. In 405 Council, we just had a CK class restructuring event. He said, and get us on the ground somewhere safe as soon as possible. There might still be a chance to save something. Good thing he realized that really fast. The room was in chaos. It was the distinctly surreal kind of chaos that occurs when everyone knows that something horrible has happened, but no one remembers what it was. There was, however, one person who did know. He sat in his chair, silently reviewing his notes, waiting for the chaos to die down. Which it finally did when the nondescript person at the head of the table rapped a gold-plated fountain pen against the mahogany surface. 10, report, one said once the noise had died down. There was a slender, bookish man with olive-colored skin and long, ebony black hair done into a shoulder-length braid. He was known as the quietest member of the Overseer Council, the one who attended every meeting, took notes, and said nothing. Some of his colleagues wondered what his actual job was. They will find out today. Let me start at the beginning, Ten said. We have established that the likely cause of the event was a researcher at the site who was doing research into anomalous effect miscapability. In English, please, 11 demanded. He was combining SCPs and reporting on the results, Ten went on. He was working on improvements to SCP-2000. Wait a minute, back up, 9 interrupted. There's no SCP-2000. The special containment procedures directly only goes up to SCP-999. Well, 999, wait, 999, yes, I did say it correctly. You know when you say like 3 nines, like these 3 numbers in a row, and sometimes you feel like, did I say a 4th one by accident? That's how it felt right there. It does now, Ten said grimly. It didn't 3 hours ago. We lost over 2/3 of the SCPs we had in containment. That's impossible, one of the O5 shouted. How the hell could there be a containment breach of that magnitude when... I'm not sure why I give him the fucking Chuckles voice. Clown voice. Absolutely idiotic, someone else protested. You tell me a single accident at one site caused... Silence! One barked. Silence. For the past 30 years, this man's job has been to watch and wait for exactly this kind of event to occur. One said sternly. Now that it has, I'm ordering all of you to sit down, shut up, and let him do his goddamn job. And maybe, just maybe, listen to him as if he's an expert on the subject that none of the rest of us know a single goddamn thing about. The silence continued. 10. Proceed. 10 nodded and pushed his glasses back into place with his ring finger. Throughout the entire shouting match, he had remained calm and silent. Alright, let me change tack, his 10 said. He shuffled the papers in his hand until he found the page he was looking for, took a deep breath, and continued speaking. SCP-2000 was a Thaumiel class. He raised a hand to forestall the obvious argument. Thaumiel is a containment class that apparently doesn't exist anymore, 10 explained. It refers to anomalies that in themselves are used to contain or protect from other anomalies. Thank you, 10. Proceed, one said. SCP-2000 was an emergency system designed Deus Ex Machina, 10 said, arbitrarily choosing a tense. The system was designed to trigger upon detection of a world-altering event. The way it works is a bit complicated, but it comes down to a series of cloning devices and mind control systems that can repopulate the Earth after a K-class event with cloned human beings with implanted false memories. You're saying a C-class restructuring event was caused by a human cloning device? 9 asked. Of course not. But SCP-2000 was the final fail-safe in the case of human extinction, in order to keep the system safe in case of a temporal or reality-altering event. The entire thing was placed in the single most existentially secure site on Earth, inside Yellowstone Mountain, right above the bloom. Then raised his hands to forestall yet another course of complaints and questions. The bloom is a black box SCP, he continued. It's one that, until this point, has been known only to 4 overseers, myself, 1, 2, and 13. It's a reset button for the universe. 10 is oversimplifying, of course, one said curtly. Given the time constraints, I didn't feel that I had the time to get into the whole trans-universal flower and multiversal observer aspect of the artifact, 10 said calmly. All everyone else needs to know right now is that the bloom seems to be the separation point between several different versions of possibility. The bloom itself is the most existentially stable point on the planet, which is why we place our last resort species recovery system right on top of it. Unfortunately, 10 continued, the Yellowstone Mountain happened to be also a massive megavolcano which is tectonically unstable and is overdue to erupt, which is why Dr. Knoll was assigned to find a way to duplicate the bloom's protective effects elsewhere in the hopes of either moving or duplicating it at a more stable position. Unfortunately, something seems to have gone wrong. Rather than holding different parallel universes apart, the bloom is now drawing them together. There weren't scranton reality anchors around this thing? Nine asked. The scranton reality anchors around that thing are the only reason why our universe hasn't already vanished, Hen explained, if I may. He tapped the control on his keyboard and my eye is trying to kill me. An image appeared on the screen behind him. This is a false color representation of the current mathematical reality. He said the blue spheres represent adjunct timeless and Schrödinger type uncertainties. The yellow spirals represent the separate universes and timelines. This image was taken over the course of the past year at one of our temporal research facilities. He tapped the control and the image began to move. And now a live feed. Just to check on my girl. Everything's good. The image, which had previously been more static, now swirled and bubbled, like Yellowstone flower floating in a sea of foam. Slowly but inexorably, the flower were starting to come together. Timelines are like protons and antiprotons, Tan explained. When two separate but incompatible realities intersect, the result is mutual annihilation. With the bloom drawing neighboring realities towards ours, the end result is obvious. Tan tapped the control and the words "projected sequence of events" appeared on the top of the screen. The first intersection of universes will result in collapse of the space-time membranes that surround our reality. Causality will cease to exist. Events will no longer be distinct moments in time. Where Schrödinger, famous cat, is only theoretically both alive and dead, the interpolation will force it to become truth. This is obviously impossible. The only possible result is mutual annihilation. Tan grimaced. This annihilation reaction will result in the release of unimaginable amounts of energy. The resulting energy will accelerate the convergence process, drawing even more parallel universes together at an ever-quickening rate. On the screen, the flower folded into each other, swirled and vanished into gray foam until nothing else existed. And that, Tan said, will be it. ZK class reality failure scenario, one said. I don't think we have a term for what's about to happen that comes closest, Tan admitted. Unless we do something within the next few hours, we're going to lose everything. We have a last-ditch contingency plan, which is a whole nother thing. I'm not, even though it's short, I don't think I'm going to read this. You know what? The chance of it succeeding are minuscule. The only other option I see is to activate the bloom itself, which will entail entering a Yellowstone Mountain facility. Let's finish this first, and then we read the last-ditch contingency plan that they have. What else do we have in place that can respond in time? Just one 10-minute mobile task force Omega-7, Pandora's Box. Team Able is currently out of contact, but we managed to get into contact with the force leader for Team Iris. He was, in fact, the agent who originally called in this alert. They will be ready to enter the facility within the hour. Does anyone else have anything to add? One asked, no one said. No one did. Then deploy them, he continued, and keep me informed. The O5 Council leader turned to Tan, his dark eyes flashing intently. Get this taken care of, he said. Do whatever you need to. You have full operational authority over all Foundation assets until this crisis is over. Oh, wait, he's saying to 10. Do whatever you need to. You have full operational authority over all the Foundation assets until this crisis is over. 10 nodded in reply. Actually, I'm going to read the contingency plan now. The problem is one of the first things you do when you make dandelion wine is throw away the flowers. 17 minutes. That's how long it will last this time. The crucifixes with the screaming human sacrifices flayed and nailed to the I-beam crosses vanish, replaced by a bucolic pastoral scene. The serenity of the gold-flecked rolling hills ruined only by the presence of a 30-foot-tall Albertosaurus biting the head of a three-headed sheep. Hits the stopwatch, resets the timer. 00.00.01 and counting. He decided to head south, pushing through the field of waist-high dandelions and away from the predator, messily devouring its meal. A throbbing scar on his leg, angry and red, serves as a reminder that a few minutes are long enough to be maimed or killed. It takes a moment once he is far enough from the gory scene to tear the leaves of one of the plants and cram them into his mouth. They taste bitter and tough, but they are edible, and he has not eaten in a long time. They told him that he would be safe. They told him that he needed to carry the information across the universe. Somewhere out there, they said there would be a universe where the Foundation still existed. Find them, tell them what happened, maybe they can fix it. He tears the stem off of one of the oversized dandelions and sucks on the milky sap, and starts to pull off the dinner plate-sized flour and stuff them into his battered rucksack. Maybe on the next jaunt he can find a bottle and some sugar, make some dandelion wine. The shift hits him between zipping his rucksack up and hefting it to his shoulder. He is now standing in the middle of a four-way intersection at rush hour. A yellow cab nearly runs him over. The man behind the wheel is shouting at him, waving a middle wide-fingered hand as his ruddy face roars. Twisted in rage, his eyes are empty and his passenger are only corpses. Lovely. He steps aside and looks up into a vermilion sky. The noonday sun is crimson. The color of blood is bloated too large, taking up nearly half the sky, and the light is dim enough to gaze into to see the white, blotchy, diseased patches that dot the surface of that shining orb. All we can do is place one person outside it, an outside observer, unaffected by the shifts. We drew straws, we chose you. 21 minutes, that was how long the world lasted. He hit the stopwatch, resets the counter. There's a supermarket on the corner. The plate glass window is shattered, and a man now long dead has been hurled through it. He steps over the glass and into the empty, deserted aisles. He is hungry. He's always hungry. He ignores the rotting displays of fruit, buzzing with flies, or the greenish molding displays of meat in butcher aisles, and heads straight for the canned goods. On the way, he passes by the dry goods. Something makes him pause. It's a box of instant stuffing. The front shows a typical Thanksgiving scene in the style of Norman Rockwell. The father is carving into a screaming human head. The apple-cheeked children are passing around plates of body parts. Takes down a can from the shelf, a thin rectangular can in the style of a sardine tan, and opens it up with the Swiss key. 17 baby blue eyeballs packed in oil stare back up to him. He grabs as many cans as possible. He can't afford to be picky. We know what caused this, but it's too late. We can't stop it. Reality as we know it will vanish into the sea of chaos, into the sea foam of what could have been. This time, the world lasts a full half hour before the shift. Yeah, he hits the stopwatch, resets the counter. The world is filled with fog. From out of the fog come men, or creatures very much like men. His machete is drawn before the first one reaches him, its broad mouth open impossibly wide, revealing a maw filled with jagged shark-like teeth. The nature of reality is that of a multiverse. Choice causes new universes to branch out. Possibility creates new realities. Always before, however, those parallel universes have been separate, distinct, that is changing. The next few minutes are difficult. He kills many, but they are legion. He is thrown to the ground. They tear open his pack with a bloated corpse and scatter the contents. They grabbed hold of the cans and slam them against rocks and broken bricks, bursting them open and devouring the eyes, finger and tongues within. Then they turned on him. There's a visual representation of the CK class restructuring, they told him. The spirals represent the universes they are converging. He is lucky. The world only lasts 9 minutes, but it's long enough for one of the shark-faced creatures to take a bite out of his arm. He emerges into the new world. It is raining, and the rain is made of shit and blood. When they woke him from his bed in the middle of the night, he knew it would be bad, but then he had to be ready. His years in the army had taught him fear had taught him how to survive against all odds. He was ready to face whatever they needed him to face, kill whatever they needed him to kill. He didn't expect that they would take him into the room and show him a movie, a false color representation of a mathematical reality. It looked beautiful. A sea of blue foam with bubble forming and popping, with brilliant yellow spirals floating among them. The spirals, he noticed, were getting closer together, and the colors were fading. Yellowstone, gotcha. It reminded him of the back on the farm in his childhood when his grandfather used to make dandelion wine with the flowers his grandmother and sister would pick from the rolling green fields. The old man would put the flowers in a big Pyrex cooking pot and fill it with water, some sugar and lemon juice, and he would watch spellbound as the yellow flowers rose and fell in that boiling liquid, turning slowly in the bubbling water, changing color from the bright yellow to a dull brown. Here's a stopwatch and resets the counter. Alright, back to Incident 0. Yellowstone Mountain had mostly stabilized. Rather than looking like a poor quality VHS tape, it was now just fuzzy and somewhat translucent, like an out-of-focus photograph. Every once in a while, it would flicker and change as some alternate possibility asserted itself upon this reality. 3 Humvees approached the landed helicopter at the foot of the mountain. 12 soldiers, 6 men, 5 women, and Effie, disembarked. One of the soldiers, a huge man with ebony skin and a hint of electric blue eyeshadow above his intense eyes, emerged from the lead vehicle carrying 2 kit bags. He tossed them on the ground at Adrian and Beatrix's feet. Okay. Good of you to join us, Agent William Abrams said, smirking. Though I bet you'd rather be alone in the bed with Beats right now. Hey, what about me? Beats muttered as she rummaged through her kit bag for the BDUs. She carelessly stripped off her trench coat and nightgown, trading them for her combat gear. I was promised breakfast in bed, she said, pulling a slate gray sports bra on over her head. Really? Damn, girl, you got him wrapped around your little finger, Billy said, grinning. It's where I prefer to be, Adrian said. He too had stripped and was trading in his tuxedo print boxes for a much more sedate pair of darky gray skivvies. What's the situation with Team Abel? Don't know, Bill admitted. We're still trying to get in contact. They were inside the facility when the event occurred. Damn, Adrian muttered, pulling on a pair of grey digital camouflage trousers. Alright guys, load up for a close battle. I want you and Effie on rifles. Everyone else takes SMGs or carbines, medium armor. No point in getting killed by some monster from another dimension while trying to fix a temporal anomaly. What about me? 11 pairs of eyes turned to look at SCP-105. The blonde teenager stood in the doorway of the helicopter, clutching her silver pistol case. I don't have my kit, but I can help. Non-Omega 7 personnel will not participate in this operation, Adrian said curtly. Adrian, those are my friends. Non-Omega 7 personnel will not participate in this operation, Adrian repeated. Pilot, get this SCP object back into the containment as soon as possible. If it gives you any trouble, you are authorized to tase it and take it back home unconscious. Blah. Adrian deliberately did not look as he heard the girl begin to sob. He kept his eyes locked on his gear as he heard Beats lead SCP-105 back into the helicopter, heard the rotor spin up, and felt the vehicle take off behind him. Damn, Billy said. That was fucking cold. Right now, she's a liability, not an asset, Adrian snapped. The sooner she's out of the operating area, the better. Keep telling yourself that. Me? I think you just don't want to take her into that, Billy said, gesturing to the still flickering mountain. Adrian replied was interrupted by a slender androgynous figure jogging up, holding a laptop computer. We've made contact with Team Abel, Agent Fatima Workwise said. He wants to talk to you. Fuck, Adrian muttered. It just gets better and better. He accepted the laptop from Effie. Go for Team Iris. Jesus. That last exclamation was for the scene on the laptop computer. Oh, go for Team Iris. Jesus. The exclamation was for the scene on the laptop computer. Entire hallway splattered with blood. Crazily swinging fluorescent lights hanging from the ceiling, panic shouts, and the sound of gunfire from off-screen. But the thing that had prompted the profanity was the man lying on the lab table. Tall, cold, olive-skinned, black-haired, skin covered in scarlet tattoos. His body below his waist was an explosion of gore. Andrews, Abel rasped. Report. Adrian breathed deeply, the gorge rising in his throat. It took him 3 deep breaths to recover. Team Iris is ready to breach and enter, Adrian said. All present and accounted for except Iris Actual. Good. Abel closed his eyes for a moment. I am done killing for a time, he said at last. You will take command of this operation. Adrian felt cold. Sir, Squire is next in the chain of command. Squire is a warrior, as am I. If I did not succeed, he will not either. This problem requires a scholar. Mind, not muscle, will win this. The tall, dark-haired figure on the screen collapsed and exhaled deeply. It did not move again. The camera shifted, revealing the grime and soot-stained visage of an older man with ginger hair, shot with silver. You heard the man, sir? Agent Squire said. Orders? Shit. Agent breathed deeply. Alright, well, you guys hold up. Security Station 9, we're pretty safe here, but there are hostiles roaming the halls. We've taken quite a few casualties and are currently on combat ineffective, Squire smiled grimly. Just another day in Pandora's box, I suppose. Alright, Adrian gestured over his shoulder, felt a map being pressed into his hand. Thanks, he said, unfolding the map on the hood of the Humvee. Alright, he repeated. Security Station 9, we'll enter. Adrian frowned and shook his head. His vision kept getting blurry, and every time he blinked, the shape of the hallway changed. Damn it, the map keeps changing on me. You should try walking through those hallways sometimes, Squire Grimm's smile widened. Real pain in the ass. Both the walls trying to eat you alive. The seconds ticked by as Adrian glared at the map for a few more moments, then gave up. Alright, wait 5, he said to the laptop computer. He picked up the map and carried out of the computer's field of view, waved his hand in the air in a small circle to rally the soldiers. Team Iris, he shouted. Hello up, I need some ideas. And that's part 2. Let's get to part 3. This alone is already like going to be pretty long part of the video, yeah? Let's not forget I have like this chunker to read afterwards. But everything else is like everything else is like at normal length. It is definitely this one that's the longest. These two are. No, yeah, this one's the longest. This one is also pretty long. But yeah, okay. Incident 0 part 3. General Bow's paternal great-grandfather had died at Gettysburg on the command of General Armstead during Pickett's famous doomed charge. He had been one of the brave Confederate soldiers to cross the stone wall at the Bloody Angle, had been shot in the gut by a damned dirty Yankee, stood his ground as his comrades in arms retreated, and used his last breath to stab a filthy Irishman in the heart. It was a story passed down on his father's side of the family as an example of the courage and bravery of the Bow bloodline. General Bow's maternal great-grandfather had also died at Gettysburg. He's been a member of the 69th Pennsylvania, one of the brave men who defended the stone wall at the Bloody Angle. He shot a filthy slave-owning rebel scum in the belly and stood at the center of the heaviest fighting at the Confederacy highway. Actually, I need to check. My friend texted. I need to check. Okay, all good. Heaviest fighting at the Confederacy highway was watermarked, but when the enemy retreated, he hadn't noticed that one of the damn Johnny Rebs weren't quite dead. The cavalry Southlander had bayoneted him in the heart as he leaped over the fence, and 2 of them had died in each other's arms. There was no way of knowing whether General Robert Ulysses Abraham Jefferson Bow's great-grandfather had really killed each other at the Battle of Gettysburg, but it made sense to him. General Bow was a man at the war with everything, including himself. He was a scholar who had chosen a career in the military, a scientist who studied the unscientific, a soldier without a war to fight. Internal conflict was his raison d'etre. I assume that's how you say it, man. I don't speak French. 9/11 had been the worst day in American history for many people. Not so for General Bow. For the general, the worst terrorist attack on American soil had meant a chance to put into action the plans he had been making for years. It was a chance for his secret negotiation with the shadowy organization known only as the Foundation to be brought into the relative light of Black Ops. The last few years had been very good for General Bow, multiple successful operations overseas that had resulted in increasing funding for the Bow Commission's projects. Now, within the last 12 hours, things had gone to shit. First, he said, as the leader of the Overseer Council sat down across from him, you need to assure me that what's going on at Yellowstone isn't a terrorist attack, that it's going to be taken care of. I'm trying to give him the soldier voice from Team Fortress 2, but I never actually tried to imitate one of the Team Fortress 2 characters yet. The Overseer said, Yellowstone is not a terrorist attack, it's more like an accident in weapons development testing. The situation will be resolved within the next 24 hours. Good, General Bow said. I'll hold you to that. He jotted down a note on a pad of sketch paper. I need a situation report. The overseer said. Yellowstone Mountain is currently in temporal and existential flux. Aside from that, we are still trying to assess the damage. Due to the CK class restructuring, all of our special containment procedures databases have desynchronized. China, Korea, Japan, and Russia branches are all showing different file numbers for different objects. We're currently sorting them out only by using American database as a baseline and affixing a suffix to the foreign branches. Desynchronized entries, but it is a lengthy process that might never be fully resolved. I disapproved of your organization having foreign outposts, General Bo reminded the overseer. I was afraid that something like this might happen. The overseer said, You were concerned about the security of our foreign offices. This is hardly the same thing. Nevertheless, it is the opinion of this commission that the Foundation's foreign offices now represent an unacceptable security risk. General Bo turned to the next page on the sketch pad, jotted down another note. Following the end of this current crisis, you will present a plan to decommission them and consolidate your anomalies in American containment sites within no more than 5 years. The overseer said we were promised an oversight over our own operations. Relocating our inventory will be problematic. This is not to mention those anomalies that cannot be relocated due to the size or other factors. That was before you idiots blew up Yellowstone Mountain, General Bo said, and before you lied to us about the state of your weapons development division. The overseer said, We have not... I know about Project Olympia, General Bo interrupted. You as scientists created a line of production model super soldiers and somehow neglected to report that to the commission. I've read about the capabilities of the Olympia line. Do you know how many American special operations soldiers have died since the start of the war? Do you know how many lives could have been saved? The overseer said nothing. Your foundation had its fun for long enough. Time to put on your big boy pants and become part of the government, General Bo said. He folded up his sketchbook and got to his feet. I'll be in touch regarding the consolidation of Foundation assets in the Department of Paranormal Warfare tomorrow afternoon. The overseer said, There is no Department of Paranormal Warfare. There will be tomorrow. The President and I will make sure of it. The General left the office without saying goodbye or asking for a salute. The overseer remained in its seat after he had gone. This idea sucks, Adrian said. It was the best we could do, Bill said, to get ready. Adrian took a deep breath, revved the engine, and clutched the steering wheel tightly. The answer, as it turned out, had been fairly simple. Going in using the front door was out of the question. Too many hostiles roaming the halls, too much distance to cover, surrounded by hostiles of every possible shape and size. On the other hand, there was the reality of civilization, namely the fact that the Yellowstone Mountain was replaced with an empty field of geysers and hot springs for about 30 seconds every 30 minutes. Beatrix had done the math. A vehicle that traveled approximately 30 miles per hour should barely have enough time to travel through the solid granite and arrive at the location of the main car park just as the mountain reappeared. It was kind of like driving through a bunch of swinging pendulums, if the pendulum were universes and the metaphor was a little less forced. Adrian glanced at the other passengers in his Humvee. Bill rode shotgun, saw across his lap. Beats, Effie, and Vincent were in the back seat. Effie standing by the jump into the turret and manned the .50 cal if things went bad. If things went bad, the universe was going mad. There was goddamn mountain flicking in and out of existence in front of him, and he was worried about things getting worse. 10 seconds, Bill said, and Adrian gripped the steering wheel even more tightly. 7, 6, 5. Adrian pulled the vehicle in gear just as Bill said 5. So excited as Bill said 3, had a horrible moment when he thought that the timer was off and they were about to drive straight into a granite wall. And then the mountain disappeared and they were driving along the flat volcanic plain. Adrian ignored the other vehicles behind him, ignored everything but the broken road before him, and Bill's voice counting down. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then the flat plains disappeared, and they were driving through a parking garage with flickering fluorescent lights and blood all over the ground, and the wall was getting close, so damn close. Agent slammed the brakes and the tires squealed and the Humvee slewed left and it slammed into the concrete wall and then went Contact right, Bill shouted. His saw fired off 3 short bursts. Vincent was screaming something that Adrian had heard the staccato chatter of Beatrix's submachine gun, and then came to the low, steady thought of the .50 opening up and then silence. Adrian glanced out of the right side of the vehicle. Something big, gray, and humanoid lay on the ground, now riddled with bullets and breathing its last. At the front of its head, where a face should have been, was a blank, grayish nothing. I mean, there's a lot of SCPs that look like that, so I'm not sure if it's like meant to be one of the ones we know. A bloody wet gurgle from the back. Adrian turned to look. He immediately wished he hadn't. Vince was stumbled against the door, twitching and gasping. The entire front of his head, from his ears forward, was just gone. If he drew a pistol, put it to his temple, and fired once, the thing that had been Vince went still. Adrian swallowed hard and turned away. Sound off! He shouted in the darkness. This car too? Came a shout from behind him. Ferguson, everyone's fine, but back on the end of the car, stuck in the wall. Shit! Adrian whispered. The timing must have changed. He took a deep breath before asking the question no one wanted to answer to. Car 3. A long pause. I can see the front bumper sticking out of the wall. I can see the front bumper sticking out of the wall behind me. Ferguson shouted. That's it. Silence again. How about you? Adrian glanced in the back of the Humvee. Beatrice was wiping off her bloody face with her shaking hand while Effie and Bill wrestled Vince's still body out of the back seat. One casualty, he said. It's Vince. Fatal. And our heartbeat were for silence. Shit, Felix said. Alright, what's the plan? Can you see us? Adrian asked. Yeah, I can see your tail lights. Then disembark and grab what you can. Move your squad up and we'll proceed from here on foot. Roger. Moving, Fredrickson said. Adrian rubbed his upper lip, despair setting in. 1 minute into the mission, and Team Iris had already suffered 5 casualties out of the original 14. Even for Pandora's box, those were not good figures. He checked his carbine, slung it over his shoulder, and climbed out the driver's side door. Something squished under his foot as he stepped out of the car, and he shone his flashlight down to see what it was. It was a face. Vince. Ugh. Adrian allowed himself a moment of revulsion before closing his eyes and doing his breathing exercises, his finger clenched tightly, gripping a scalpel that didn't exist. There are a lot of different ways to think about sulking through a monster-ridden... No, not sulking. It's definitely... How do you say that? Because sulking is to be sad, right? But that's without the K at the beginning. So it is skulking. Okay. Cool. I just saw sulking and I was like, wait, that doesn't... Through a monster-ridden facility in the middle of a temporal flux event, one is Nightmare, and one is Death Trap. Omega 7 called it Movement Through Hostile Territory. Single file line, weapon raised, checking and double checking every corner intersection and communicating only through hand gestures, taps on the shoulders and squeezing on the leg. Just another series of corridors and doorways to be checked, cleared and moved through. They encountered no further hostiles, although they could on occasion hear growls, grunts and screams from deeper inside the facility. The odd flickering and fuzziness faded away as they proceeded further and got closer to the Scranton reality anchors at the heart of the base. All in all, the movement was quick, professional and by the numbers. The thing laying outside Security Station 9 resembled a hugely obese human being, albeit one that was over 9 feet tall and covered in oozing sores and tumors. A large numbers of rotting, disintegrated corpses lay all around it. Most of them dressed in the uniforms of Mobile Task Force personnel. One of the last decomposed was an old man with ginger hair, shot with silver. Squire had died in close contact with the monster. His corpse still held a tarnished knife in one hand. The other was sunk wrist deep into the rolls of fat around the creature's neck. They were attacked shortly after you entered the facility, a low voice said in an unfamiliar accent. Oh, wait. In an unfamiliar accent. So let me just make one up. They were attacked shortly after you entered the facility, a low voice said in an unfamiliar voice. They were attacked shortly after you entered the facility. Unfortunately, they were all dead by the time I arrived. The 9 surviving members of Mobile Task Force Omega 7 turned to face a figure stepping out of the shadows. It was very tall and handsome, and his arms were made out of steel. It is Kane. Well, Kane. Beatrix breathed. She lowered her weapon a moment later as at a gesture from Adrian, the rest of Omega 7 followed. I would not approach the corpse too closely if I were you, the tall, Semitic-looking man said. Even dead, the noxious fumes could prove fatal. Team, fall back. Team, fall back. Adrian's ordered, mask on. We're at conference room 6. Fredrickson, take point. He spared Squire one last look as the team retreated. The old man's body had dissolved into slime, leaving only a goo-covered skeleton behind. The dagger had corroded into a clump of rust, and a few moments later, even that had crumpled into a reddish-brown dust. Alright, Adrian said to his squad leaders as the rest of them said to his squad leaders as the rest of them team took up rest position inside the conference room. Let's review the situation. Liquids, green all around, untainted plenty of reserves, ammunition, full loads on my team, Fredrickson said. Evan and Mia down 1 mag each, reloaded 1 from Vince, picked up his spares, were green, Bill said. Alright, no injuries, KIAs are leave in place as for missions essential equipment. Adrian scoffed and shook his head. At this point, guys, I'm not sure what our mission is anymore. Team A was down, presumed KIA, and 9 of us aren't going to make it much further into the site. If this were any other mission that calls combat ineffective, scrub it. But it's not any other mission, Beatrix pointed out. This is it. Well, that's left. Right, Adrian said grimly. So I'm taking suggestions for ideas of what we should do next. Has anyone suggested, you know, asking the ancient Sumerian whatchamacallit? Fredrickson asked. All 3 of them turned to regard SCP-073. He alone had not entered the conference room and was standing in the hallway outside, calmly looking down the darkened corridors. His still hands clasped in front of him in the oddly demure fashion. Adrian and Beatrix exchanged a look. It's worth a shot, Beatrix admitted. Yes. Kane said, I do have some advice on what you can do to rectify the situation. Alright, Adrian said. Why didn't you say something before? You didn't ask. Kane replied, an answer is of no use if the question is not asked. Alright, Adrian repeated. Well, I'm asking now. What do we do? That would depend on your definition of the word we, Kane said. If by we you refer to you, the woman, and I, that is an answer I do not wish to give. If by we you refer to your squad in general, most of them will be of no use, aside from you and your lover. The rest are irrelevant. I'm not sure I understood correctly, Fredrickson said after a long pause, but I think Kane just told us to fuck off and let you and Beats handle the rest. It will appear so, Adrian said, sighing. Beats, the way I see it, Kane's the only one who has any ideas, which means he's already 1 step ahead of the rest of us. I said we do as he suggests. He gave the tall man a cold stare. Alright, Adrian said. Then we decide. Beats and I will go with Kane, as for the rest of the squad. Fredrickson, you in command now. I suggest you take the rest of the team and retreat to our starting point. There should be an exit in about 15 minutes. Begging your pardon, sir, but all 3 Humvees are fucked. No way we can run fast enough to make it outside the mountain before it resolidifies, Fredrickson pointed out. Only way out is through the front entrance. That's going to take you through the thickest areas of hostile activity, Adrian pointed out. Odds aren't good. So in that case, we may as well come along, right? Fredrickson said, we're dead if we try to escape anyway, so we might as well join the suicide mission. Look, Fredrickson. Sorry, Adrian. Fredrickson said, you put me in command of the squad, remember? This is not to you anymore. The 6 of us, the sound of a low growl from the darkness interrupted their conversation. Something big was coming their way. I think, Beatrix said darkly, that may be the sound of this decision being made for us. Agreed. Agreed. Well, I lost his voice. Agreed, Fredrickson said. We'll cover your backs. Maybe we'll buy you some time. Get going. Adrian watched the 6 remaining members of Pandora's box setting up a defensive perimeter in the hallway. They looked very small and very alone. He mimed, cutting open a cat's belly with his empty right hand and turned back to Kane and Beatrix. Alright, form up on me and let's get started. And elsewhere in the facility, surrounded by the dead and dying, a stone cube opened up, and a tall, nicked man with scarlet tattoos all over his olive skin emerged once more into the world. Part 4. I'm gonna get my phone real quick. to see what going on with Jamie. Why the goodbye video? Okay, and as this happened on the other side, a woman gasped as she collapsed to the floor. Her arms and legs rapidly withered into nothingness as her skin hardened to stone. Despite her desperate cries, her companions couldn't do nothing but watch in horror as her body quickly petrified, and then they too began to scream. Adrian? Andrews tore his eyes away from the monstrous creature lurching along the path before them. Part ram, part slug, part flower garden, it tilted its bandaged head from side to side as it glided with unnatural grace through the shadow hallway. 3 nude women danced in slow circles around the horned figure, dressed only in copper helmets, a dome of ribbons that fluttered in the wind of the passages. Beatrix sighed. Give me an honest assessment. Do you really think we're going to survive this? He glanced at Kane, who was walking about 20 feet ahead of them, just a few feet behind the surreal procession. As the new figures approached the tall, olive-skinned man, her every motion speaking of the promise of sensual delights. Kane simply smiled and nodded his head in acknowledgement, and the figure retreated, head bowed and hands clasped before her bare chest. If I didn't, he said at last, it wouldn't do us any good to prepare for that. So let's say that I do think we're going to survive this and proceed from there. Beatrix nodded slowly as if there was a response she expected. In that case, remember that conversation we had last night? About 3 months in Europe versus 10 minutes on the moon? So this all is the part with all the links. I checked the links out. I'm not going to read any of this. Yeah. We'll probably do a bunch of leave after this, Beatrix said, stepping carefully along the carpet of rose petals strewn in the wake of the bulbous beast. 3 months in Europe wouldn't be out of the question. Want to come with me? Yeah, Adrian repeated. On a honeymoon? Adrian swallowed hard. Sure, he said. Sounds fine to me. His hand found hers and squeezed it tightly. Up ahead, I think Adrian's just thinking girl, what are you doing? Why are you setting all these death flags up? Up ahead, the odd progression paused at the intersection, turned right, and continued to dance, never missing a beat. Adrian, Beatrix, and Kane continued straight on into the darkness. And somewhere else, a man curled up next to a glowing green egg, holding it close to his chest. Fala Nina, Fala Nana, he crooned, stroking the cold green shell tenderly. I checked these out, and I saw these are international SCPs. Oh, fuck. And I just want to mention it here. I will mention it more often in the future, of course. But I will eventually read the international ones. I want to keep it by explain and joke for now with the subscriber specials. But I will, once one of them are done, either explain or jokes are done, I will add international to the list. I just don't want to jump too much around with all these because there's so much to read, right? But I will eventually get to that. So the more people subscribe, the more I will read. From everything else. The main story I will read doesn't matter. Nonetheless, I will. It was not long before they reached a tall steel door with a symbol of 3 inward pointing arrows within 2 circles painted upon his gunmetal gray plates. Kane stepped up to a security console at one side of the door, pressed his palm against a scanning plate. There was a loud click and does YouTube still have those intro videos that you have for a channel? I might make one for this channel. I never thought I needed one, but I know for a fact, because I keep repeating myself, because there's a chance that people will not hear what I said in one video that it's 500 SCPs ago. So maybe I'll make an intro video explaining what this channel is all about and why and when I will read stuff and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Might be helpful. From here, Kane said, I will follow you. It is necessary that the 2 of you enter first. Is this a prophecy? Adrian asked. An inevitability, Kane replied. Beatrix nodded. And let's get this fuck over with, he said sternly. She walked to the door, placed her hand on the door hand, and pushed. There was a loud crack. A high-pitched rearing sound like a dentist drill. 2 arms made of steel and wires burst through the open door, grabbed Beatrix Maddox by the head, and twisted hard. There was a sickening crack of breaking bone. I mean, yeah, I knew it. I knew it's gonna happen. And somewhere else, a man lay on a butcher's table, whimpering softly. Wordlessly, his tormentor slashed open his belly, pulled out his organ, and began expertly slashing into the tenderloin. As the man smiled its delirium, the butcher placed a small paper-wrapped package in his hands. Beatrix. Adrian locked his angry scream away inside the part of his mind that still wept when it slashed open the belly of a living cat. The rest of him raised his rifle and fired at the steel doll as it dropped Beatrix's broken body to the floor. It was a good, clean, solid burst to its center mass. The bullets flattened against the steel woman's bare belly and clattered to the floor. At a high pitch, it reminds me of now of Silent Hill F, because I'm playing that right now. At a high pitched whirring sound grew even louder and higher pitched, screaming like a jet engine turbine. Adrian's rifle stopped firing, bolt locked back. He let it fall, drew the pistol from his holster, fired twice more. His vision was blurring, he didn't know why. All he knew was that his hands were moving on their own like a machine, like the creature Abel wanted him to be, like the thing his superior wanted him to be. The steel doll stood, its joints glowed with bright blue energy. Intricate gears within gears spun and whirled in the gaps between its plates. It tilted its head to one side and opened a mouthful of cogs and wires. Adrian dove out of the way. Heat and ripping metal exploded behind him. Pain tore through his left leg, followed by a sudden numbness. He tried to stand, found that he didn't have the two legs to stand on anymore. The steel doll slowly got to her feet from where the backblast had hurled it across the room. And somewhere else, a woman screamed as a powerful beak tore into her face, ripping open her cheek and eyes. She struggled to get free, but the attack was merciless, ripping off an arm with a cruel slowness. The whole world's going to shit. But how did Adrian flip? Like, I thought it says here an Adrian fled, but he says he tried to stand, found that he didn't have two legs to stand on anymore. Oh, but he had maybe one leg. He scrabbled away from the steel doll towards the dusky-skinned man who still stood smiling softly just outside the doorway on the chamber. Something in him screamed that this wouldn't work, that this could never work, but he had no other way. He turned, saw the steel doll revving up, joints glowing blindingly bright. It streaked towards him, ready to punch through and rip apart anything to get to the thing she hated so badly. The steel doll's fist smacked into Kane's face with all the force of a speeding train. The stitch on Kane's forehead flared blue, blindingly bright, illuminating the entire corridor like a camera's flash. There was an explosion. The gynoid came apart in a shower of steel and silicon shrapnel bursting forth like a detonating shell. The last thing he saw was a razor-edged shard hanging in the air. A pain-addled mind tracked the course of that deadly little shard of metal all the way until it drove itself into his brain. And somewhere else, a squad of men struggled to get the doors to the chamber open, froze as they felt a small tickle growing in their nose and throats. Within moments, they were laying on the floor, gurgling out their last breath as they struggled to breathe. Their deaths were witnessed only by a shadowy figure who regarded the dying men with something that resembled pity. And somewhere, Agent Fredrickson screamed as a razor-toothed earth room 14 inches long bolt hung into his open eye, and somewhere a man in an orange jumpsuit halted in a hallway full of smoking gas as the hooded figure in a plague doctor's mask glided by, muttering instantly about a cure. Yeah, we know who that is. I'm pretty sure we also know the Earthworm one. And somewhere a woman turned and ran from a blank white mask hovering in the darkness of an infinite stairway, but could not escape the death that followed. And somewhere a man sitting before a computer screen depicting a black and white map of the world saw the icon located over the Yellowstone mountain change from red to black. Everything's going horrible. And in that period of time, Kane finished laying Adrian on Andrew's bleeding body next to that of his comatose lover, stepped through the steel door, and entered the chamber of the bloom. It waited for him, resplendent in its infinite colors, iridescent petals stretching across the dimensions, slowly fading in and out of view as it turned gently in space. The cosmic flower at the heart of the world, the thing that had allowed humanity to try and try again when they had failed, the fruit of knowledge, the reflection of eternity. It had been so long since it had been allowed to witness its glory. Cain heard an animal growl behind him, turned knowing already what he would see. His brother, the murdered murderer, stood in the doorway. A pair of black swords were clutching in his hands, his eyes were cold, dead, emotionless, just as they had been after Cain's old hands had finished committing their unspeakable sin. Cain's new hands, the ones made of steel and fire, clutched tightly. Blue flames erupted from between the joints of his artificial arms. They were matched by the crimson flames that burst forth from this brother's demonic tattoos. Abel took a single step forward. Oh boy. Part 5. So this, and remember guys, because it has been an hour and 50 minutes, this was linked by the sentence saying, like, what if God will say no? So this is basically saying, like, what if everything goes to shit? So I have to, like, keep in mind that those links don't always lead to, like, events that have happened in that logs canon, like as in SCP 2000. This might have not happened, but this is like something that will happen in the future. Like, so the link saying, like, oh, what if God says no one time? It's not something that has happened, they reset it. It is something that could still come. You know what I mean? It's not all just like tales of the past and present. It's also tales of in the future that will happen one day. And Cain stepped aside, head bowed respectfully. Abel passed under the gates of pearl and fire and entered the chamber of the bloom. His dead eyes beheld the text inscribed upon the bloom in runes deeper than a man's arm, burning like gold upon the glassy petals that spanned universes. The activation code for the bloom, the actions that Abel and Cain would need to take to reset time. A cruel smile touched Abel's thin lips. He pushed past the words, leaving them unread. He laughed as he raised his hand above his head. A sword that burst forth sketched from his fingertips all the way to the stars and beyond. It swallowed up all the light that fell upon it, sang of death and the silent tomb, smelled of the void between worlds, devoured light and heat and life and hope. Never again, Abel said. He slashed down, and the blade sliced through the gleaming petals and embedded itself deep into the heart of the bloom. Reality twisted as the bloom died. And somewhere, a man sitting before a computer screen depicting a black and white map of the world blinked, and a green icon marked SCP 2000 facility appeared in Yellowstone National Park, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a man watched as a flickering video feed recorded the panicked last words of a woman running, screaming down a flight of infinite stairs. It had always been so. And somewhere, 3 men in orange jumpsuits carefully stepped out of a chamber that stank of blood and shit, eyes locked upon the thing that stood in the corner, not daring to blink until 2 men in white uniforms and body armor slammed the door shut, and it had always been so. So this is now going back to how the foundation it was, and it's always been so. And somewhere, a new set of stone statues were carefully cataloged and put away in the safe by a blind man, working entirely by touch, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a white-collared researcher watched dispassionately as an emaciated woman in orange wept bitter tears as hunger and exhaustion finally took her life, mourning the child she had not known, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a plate with perfectly cooked Chatterbrain roast was placed into an MRI scanner, its internal structure carefully catalogued, along with the mumbling of the man whom it had been taken from, and it had always been so. And somewhere, the torn-up body parts of an unfortunate Japanese woman were placed into the crematorium as a Buddhist priest chanted solemnly before a small altar upon which a photograph and several offerings for her unfortunate soul were placed. And it had always been so. And somewhere, a tire worker closed up the crate on a set of tactical equipment, including a UV light projector, scanned the serial number he entered into the system as Combat Gear Surplus, and it had always been so. And somewhere, a man sitting at a computer keyboard carefully studied the words on the screen, deleted some, tapped in others, hit the save button once it was done, and it had always been so. But none existed in the world who remembered otherwise. Except one. 0510 opened her eyes. Oh, damn it. She picked up the phone on the desk and pressed a single button. Wait, wasn't there a man before? Hold on. Am I... I thought it was a man. 10. Yeah, it was this. 10 was a man before, now it's a woman. Interesting. Interesting, okay. We need to talk. Actually, I gave him. Yeah, oh well. 1 found 10 standing silent before the great black cone embedded point down into the magma chambers on the Yellowstone National Park. Famous geysers. As always, the thorn was silent, inscrutable, black as a void, devouring all light that fell upon it. Okay. Is there a reason you asked me to meet you here? He asked. Yes. Ten said, I'm going to ask you a simple question and I want simple answers. He turned to face the other member of the Overseer Council. How long ago did the Deva civilization fall? One opened his mouth, then round. He swallowed hard, brow furrowed, jaw working. Oh, it's Ron, okay. I'm going to ask another question. Is SCP-343 God or not? Well, of course, Ron's voice trailed off again, a look of panicked realization. Final question, Tan whispered. What is SCP-001? Ron remained silent. Tan nodded. This was the moment she had been prepared for but had never accepted to come. TK class scenarios, she said. Broken timeline. The 4 members of the Overseer Council who met in Tan's office a month later were the only ones who knew about the thorn, or what Tan insisted should be called the bloom. According to my investigation, before it was like, according to my investigation, there's a 95% chance that the TK event took place here when nearly half of the Omega-7 operatives were killed. He said, pointing to the hash mark drawn on the timeline of events. The official version of events recorded is that SCP-076-2 was responsible for the deaths, but the sequence of events as provided by the survivors have never lined up properly. Neither has 076-2 ever given any explanation as to his actions. In addition, Tan continued, there is the issue of an agent listed in official records only as AA, with all official records of his full name lost or otherwise corrupted. Despite being later responsible both for his death and the death of his former lover, the sequence of events that led to his transformation are hazy at best, with multiple conflicting accounts present. All of this evidence leads to one conclusion. At some point in the recent past, a massive CK-class restructuring took place that resulted in the breaking and repair of the timeline. But like a broken vase, the repair timeline is flawed. Look closely enough and the cracks are evident. Events that don't line up, things that happen without a cause, mysteries left unsolved, not because the answer isn't known, but because we don't even know to ask the question. One nodded, and you said that this was the result of this thing that you call the bloom activating? No, Tan said, the bloom, as far as we know it, does not repair timelines, it resets them. To continue the broken vase analogy, activating the bloom would be like throwing away the broken vase and making a new one. Mostly identical, but with some subtle differences. This should be impossible. By us, yes, Tu said, but what about Abel? What does Abel have to do with this? Tan wondered. Well, it was an observation that crossed my desk the other day. Ever since the death of Omega-7, SCP-076-2 has not manifested its blade since, not once, to explain. And then there was the thought I had that it was interesting coincidence that its blades were so similar to the substance that makes up the thorn. My working hypothesis had been that Abel blades were somehow drawn from the same source as the thorn, or maybe the thorn itself. But if what you say is true, and this bloom was somehow altered into the thorn about the same time that the most mobile task force Omega-7 was killed in the incident that took place nearby, you think that Abel was responsible for transforming the bloom into the thorn? Tan wondered. Not just Abel. Tu pointed out, SCP-073 was also found at the site of Omega-7 massacre, which has always been inexplicable since he was last reported 600 miles away at Site-17. Two shrugged. Maybe we should be asking them. One contemplated this in silence. No, he said at last. But one interrupted Ten's Ten's objection with a raised hand. The middle of a high wire act is the last time to begin juggling swords. He said, with SCP-2000 rolling out in the next month or so and Ryza opening Series 4. I am at Series 4. The Foundation has enough to deal with trying to fix this universe, much less worrying about what might have happened in prior ones. We put our house in order first before worrying about our neighbors. Ten glanced around the room. Two was nodding his head in agreement. 13 was being 13. If you say so, he said at last. Not just me. I'm going to ask you to take a binding and compulsory oath on this. One said you will not now nor ever take any action or to investigate the link between SCP-073 and SCP-076 and the Thorn, or, as we call it, the Bloom. Agreed? Ten nodded reluctantly. Agreed. In that case, one said, this meeting is adjourned. All transcripts from today's meeting are to be considered cognitive-hazardous artifacts and subjects to special containment procedures. Class Sub Rosa. You will submit all of your materials, including visual aids and notes, to Ryza for containment by the end of the day. This meeting is adjourned. And elsewhere, a man sat on a hilltop looking out towards the sunset. He contemplated what had come before, what would be in the future. The road to his place in this time had been a long and winding one, like many roads. There had been points where the path had been rough and difficult. And perhaps it was true that the destination was not nearly as pleasant as he had been led to believe, but the journey that had been memorable. He supposed to have made it worth it. He picked up his walking stick and took a drink of water from his canteen. It was a long walk back home, and he was looking forward to a hot shower and a good meal once he made it back. Woo! That was a bit of a long read, eh? God. We're not done, of course. We're not done. There's so much more. There's so much more. I feel like I'm trying to think how much I can read today because I'm still tired from like New Year's, but like that was good. Incident Zero, that was pretty cool. I really like that. I'm pretty sure I did not read it on let's see here. On my channel, because this was an hour and a half to read. Yeah, and the original SCP 54 minutes. Yeah, nope. I did not read it on the channel, on the stream. I mean, all right, that was Incident Zero, which came with the sentence: "We can only suspend God's disbelief so many times before the universe just says no." And considering, yeah, and that's how it, yeah, looks like the universe did say no this time. All right, now let's get to this one. Researcher note: use of BZHR system is currently suspended outside of maintenance testing in an emergency situation. CYA-09 is still go. Possible hostile incursions is still being investigated, and this database is proving particularly difficult to debug. We're still seeing a distribution of congenital and genetic defects far above the baseline numbers. Right now, I can only guarantee about 60 to 75% viability in new specimens. See addendum 2000-1. And now this is, oh yeah, it actually oh cool. I did not realize it on Opera it glows up which tab it belongs to. That's pretty cool. I like that. So this is Dr. Christopher Sardian, MD, Biotech Research and Development. Medical Seminar. So you've all been selected to be doctors for the Foundation, heads of your field and all of that. Well, I'm here to tell you that none of that matters. Here, here's one of the rest. We have one staff, over 974 doctors among the 8 primary sites alone. Why so many? They're necessary. The Foundation racks up a body count like it's going out of style, and it's your job to get that number as close to 0 as you can while not getting yourself wiped off this rock. My name, Dr. Christopher Sardian, MD. Yes, I know you all get your MDs and probably a few PhDs. You're all world-renowned surgeons, pathologists, etc. I don't care. And neither do your superiors. You're here to do a job, and to be honest, it's going to suck. The good news, the forefront of medicine, it's here, right here. This is the place where you will work on superviruses, strains of Staphylococcus, that will make your head explode, and viruses and bacteria which you never heard of before. Work with technologies and methods of treatment that are deemed too dangerous and too experimental. If you think you can't handle that, I suggest you leave now. What? Hey, what are you doing? Sit back down. That was a joke. This isn't voluntary. What you see here is going to make or break you, in some cases quite literally. Now, I know you're probably wondering what I'm getting at, but I can't tell you. If I told you, in some cases you risk exposure right there. I've been working here for less than 5 years, and I've seen pathologies that would make you shudder to think of it happening to you or even any other human being. That being said, it's going to be your job to log all of what you see, but it doesn't happen to your teams. And your friend in the containment division, believe me, they'll be your friends. You certainly have to patch them up enough. Yes, doctor, of course you're expected to keep accurate records. See this? This is a standard case file for the D class that research staff were exposing to one type of virus. You notice it's over 80 pages long. That's from one experiment. We perform hundreds in a given month. It should be noted that paper copies are only kept for experiments that are deemed too vital to be left to electronic storage, so you write up this extremely meticulous log, and you might be given a one-line mention about the results in a distilled format on a database. Sucks, but it's what happens. It's your job and you don't get to call out. D-class, you're going to feel bad for the D-class you really are. They're all terrible people, but they're still people. You patch up the spine snappings and the laceration of the throat. You'll remove rock candy from mucous membranes and send them back to have it done to them again. This is horrifying, yes. This is horrifying, yes? No, it's your job now. The Foundation runs on, whether we like it or not, and we are the ones who keep it on its feet. Not the researchers, not even the containment staff, we do. Without us, everything would go to hell around here. I do like having this speech of like fresh new doctors coming to the Foundation, because it must be, man, the first like 3 months in the Foundation as a doctor or pathologist or anything like that, your mind was just like, I wish I stayed in regular like med school or like went to an actual normal hospital instead of this. We have in containment right now several viruses that if unleashed on the world wouldn't be an epidemic situation, it would be pandemic guaranteed. I'm sure some of the pathologists here would be assigned to researching them and developing countermeasures. Of course, it goes without saying that all those procedures you learned back in med school about cleanliness and disinfection go double while you're here. Hell, some of those won't work either, so you have to follow the containment procedures for the specific objects you're working with. The best case scenario for you who will be working in actual medical. Several laceration or bullet wounds, hopefully it's only physical trauma. God help you if something infectious gets into your lab. Some of you might be assigned to site resident shifts and get it easy. Keep in mind, researchers aren't as scrupulous about disinfecting after experiments as we are. You'll be amazed what passes under your microscope. Maybe, if you get a little less lucky, you'll deal with someone whose arm spontaneously exploded. Then you'll have to report what exactly the patient is going through, checking their symptoms, etc. If you're assigned in a research capacity rather than called in to treat the injury, your first job is to report anything that is off or anomalous about the trauma. That's your job now. The patient comes second. If you're kind of lucky, you'll deal with someone whose blood is boiling out of his eyes as you speak to him. These are standard cases of known SCPs. These aren't fabrications to scare you. Well, if you're not lucky, you become the patient doctor. Something gets inside of you, and we study you. Let me give you 2 major pieces of advice. 1, we either treat, to heal, and do as we're told. Sometimes that might involve breaking the Hippocratic oath, and then fucking the ethical committee is just like, you what now? Oh, sit down. No, first, do no harm. This, however, is the Foundation. If anything gets out, it's more than the patients who will suffer. Remember, we are responsible for the lives of countless thousands. If one has to suffer for it, they will. Besides, if you don't do as you're told, you'll probably end up in front of an inquiry. 2, if the patient is violent or carrying something, don't try to contain it yourself. Call the containment team immediately. Don't risk your own life. We have precious few doctors now, and believe it or not, training a doctor takes more resources than the Foundation is generally willing to expend without a damn good reason. For those of you who thought joining the Foundation turned you into Dr. House or James Bond, think again. You do a job, keep that in mind at all times. For those of you who work outside of medical assisting in the field, keep your heads down. Yeah, you with the Bill 9 bow tie, of course you'll be in danger. You get shot at, exposed to a medic hazard, anything. The idea is to keep your heads down, follow the instructions of the field agents, and try to come back in one piece. Yeah, you with the... Is that a top hat? Why the hell are you wearing a top hat? Go see Dr. Bright about staff dress code. Office 37-C, level 4. What? I don't know. He's just as weird out about a stupid list as everyone else. You're all dismissed. Try not to get yourself maimed on your first week. I don't want to see any of you in the medical bay. That's it. That was good old Christopher Saution. Cool. A little like first time impression. Now we have here. Research will note the mechanism of the SRA function and the source of its inspiration must be kept secret from all possible reality-bending entities for reasons which I hope are obvious. Only qualified level 6/200 maintenance technicians have been cleared to access this documentation. If any member of SB 2000 staff reveals to you that they are a level 6/2000 maintenance technician, please report them to 05 Command so they can be reassigned and submitted to amnestic therapy immediately. It is not a punishment, it is a legitimate safety concern. If these devices are ever compromised, so too is our lifeboat. And this is by Dr. Lowell Henry Pittman, Esoteric Containment. Oh shit, this is gonna take me a while. Okay, here we go. 1. If the words esoteric containment mean nothing to you, stop listening. Time passes approximately 10 seconds. During this time, rain can be heard striking a number of windows nearby. My name is Dr. Lowell Henry Pittman. I'm a research scientist for the Foundation's specialty in esoteric containment of anomalous objects, events and locations. I have gone missing. Oh, what? There are 3 others with me. Alicia Connors is an archivist assistant currently assigned to SB 914. Gerald Handock is a research assistant also assigned to SB 914. Matthew Turk is the security agent with whom I have worked with to a considerable degree of satisfaction. Man, so many notes right here. The output of SCP 316 replica produced by 914, where we were exposed to the light of this new item. We are now someplace I suspect to be the United Kingdom, but we haven't been able to confirm this. We have taken shelter in a greenhouse on the Turkish suggestion. It's elevated and will give us a good view of any more incoming hostiles. We have already been attacked. We attempted to make camp in the great room of the adjacent abandoned manor house, but gunfire awoke us during the second watch. Turkish saw something disturbingly long melt a panel of a window. He attempted to reach Connors while she slept. He almost lost sight of it. He managed to shoot it, clipped the anterior of its body length, and sent it running back through the warped hole in the window. We relocated immediately. It's the first of my records. I will be documenting our attempts to return. Dr. Pittman signing off. Night 1. 1 round expanded, 71 remained. Ooh, rain continues for nearly 2 seconds before recording ends. Number 2. If the words esoteric containment mean nothing to you, stop listening. Time passes approximately 10 seconds. The sound of running and sloshing water are prominent nearby as our calm, low male voice and a higher-pitched female voice apparently in some distress. We took a chance and returned to the manor house after daylight was sufficient to light the interior of the house. Turgo was on point. I recovered the other from behind. We didn't find more insects. The house was outlets, but no power, has no modern equipment whatsoever. In fact, and it is in the truth, quite sparsely furnished for such an estate. There are places where paintings must have hung, however, and furniture was moved. It was probably stripped and abandoned. Still, we remained in some proximity to our time of origin, though we have clearly been geographically displaced. We were unable to find any... Geographically displaced, sorry. That's weird. We were unable to find any maps or other useful things here besides canned foods. Unfamiliar brand names, could be regional food, could be evidence that we are further from home than I like to admit. Have to keep an open mind. We had a debate about going in the basement. I was outvoted 3-1 in favor of breaking the locks and investigating. We were reasonably certain that nothing like we saw last night would be down there. We were right. I know that it sounds absurd, but I have the nagging feeling that the thing that took a bite out of Turgo's shoulder with the mouth on its elbow used to be human. We didn't stay long enough to find out. Hand Dog had found a keyring in the kitchen after we broke about half the logs with a hammer from the gardening shed. As the creature decided Turgo wasn't tasty enough, I shot it, sent a mass. We locked the remaining logs. We'll have to hope that they're enough. The skin absorbed a lot of the impact, and we don't have the ammunition to kill the thing. We bound the wound. Turgo seems to as though he will recover in a few days, a little longer to mend his ego. This house is dangerous, but we don't have any place else to go. We walk a few hours tomorrow and turn around if we can get a vantage point to see another destination. This is the second of the records documenting our attempt to return. Dr. Midmore signing off. Night 2. 1 round expended. 70 remain. Background noise continues for nearly 2 seconds before recording ends. Number 3. If the words okay, I will not read all that part again. Time passed approximately 10 seconds. The sound of a large fire perhaps is audible. I was certain I remembered something about the creature. I matched a file a colleague had me read a few months ago, regarding a bottle of whiskey that turned drinkers into literal monsters. The insect may have been an anomaly as well for all I know, but I know exactly what killed Alicia. I had no idea how 3 unrelated objects end up in the same place. We saw a small town in our expedition from the top of a hill. It was on the other side of a river, but that was surmountable. We crossed the river and followed it into town. Nobody was there. Too many houses for the cars here. Still here, I should say. There were some pretty deep set oil stains in front of a few homes, but no vehicles to make them. It must have been a while since I can't say what they are. I don't know who will find this. I'm calling it the beach. The beach killed or drove off everyone who lived in the city. If you find this note, don't get too close to the lake. The sands are alive and they will devour you before you realize your feet are in pieces. They took her apart, had her on the stumps before she realized she was getting shorter. That's an exaggeration, but it was horrible to watch. When she tried to run, what was left of her feet splintered as she fell. She didn't scream long. We found a car with keys inside not too far from the lake. I spotted the keychain gleaming while we were running. I think we could have gotten away without the car, but it helped. There's a road map, glove compartment. It's not in the language of any of us speak. Though it was dog-eared on a specific page, or dog-eared. I don't know. Let me see how this one is being. Because all I see is gear and dog, so I'm just like, what? Yeah, dog-eared, okay. Yeah. I specifically oh, because you that's when you take a page and make a little like indent in the paper. That's what it is. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's supposed to be like when dog-ears like fold. Yeah. The road layout fits the town, and the river we're going to get some gas and find the next nearest town. The clouds haven't lifted since we got here. Not a minute. I hope that's just how things are here. The last thing we need is anomalous weather. There's a third of the records documenting our attempt to return. Dr. Piedmont signing off. Night 3, 1 magazine inside arm lost. 58 rounds remain. Got food from a grocery store. Looking for a gun shop next. Background noise continues for nearly 2 seconds before recording ends. Let me see, how many are there? Okay, but oh, it is like 30. And then XXX, gotcha. And then, yeah. Recording starts, but there was a pause, perhaps 3 seconds before Bitmon speaks. The only background sound is 2 uncoordinated sets of breathing. Time passed approximately 10 seconds. A third set of breathing joins the noise, much closer to the source of the recording. Took had to subdue Hand Dog after we found the mirror. I don't know how it could have broken containment. There was only one, and we had it. The insect, the creature, the beach could be explained. There's only one mirror. It can't be here, or else we're not where I thought we were. I'll talk to Turga alone from now on when discussing my theories. Hand Dog isn't stable enough to take it. So they're like finding out that they're probably in an alternate reality where the same anomalies also exist. We encountered the mirror on the stand in the pawn shop we broke into. We made it to the next town, but it is as empty as the first. We found a few bodies, but they're all accidental. Nothing particularly alarming. The mirror, though, has us all on edge. We put it face down before the counter, but not before it told us what was happening. We can't trust what it said. It has said anything to keep us from leaving. Turger almost stayed, but he followed my lead. Thank God. Handog just didn't understand. He must have never read the file. It screams so loudly. So I hope nothing's here to hear it. I'm so also getting hungry. It can't be here, but it is. We're on home. We're someplace else. We find our way back. This many objects in one place. There has to be more. I hope we don't find the wrong ones. This is the fourth of the record documenting our attempts to return, the first since Connor's death. Dr. Bitmon signing off. Night 4, 1 revolver, 1 rifle, 1 shotgun found, all loaded, no ammo besides. 74 rounds remain. Background noise continues for nearly 2 seconds. That's also always the same. If it's different, I will read it. Number 5. If the words esoteric containment mean... Okay. Fuck. You caught me off guard. Time passes about 10 seconds. The sound of calm conversation is in the background. 2 male voices. There was the faint sound of rustling metal. We are in Peru. They shouldn't be here. As far as anomalies go, though grasshoppers aren't all that horrible. The accidents we found dozens more before we made it to the store make sense now. I'm glad we picked a grocery store to make camp. We'll be able to wait them out. Doug was the only one to see them, and he restrained, not that it was hard to talk him into handcuffing himself to the door of the storeroom freezer after what he saw. And I have been keeping him fed and talking him to the restroom when he needs to go. Keeping our backs towards the windowed storefront, we took away his gun for the time being, obviously. At least he told us what he was seeing before we looked. We'll be alright. Another anomaly, we need to figure out what's going on before we run into something seriously dangerous again. There's too many objects to prepare for them all. This is the 5th of the records documenting our attempt to return. Dr. Pimon signing off. Night 5, 74 rounds remain. We'll be here a while. Back on, yeah, same as before. Number 6. Actually, let's see. Yeah, number 6. If the word, yeah. Time passed about 10 seconds. 2 seats of breathing, one matching that of a sleeping human, are audible in the background. We're locked out again. Handov might have had some trouble with it if he had been the first exposed, but it caught Turk at the tail end of the locust exposure. He didn't bat an eye. It's been disconcerting to have around, but we've been adjusting. Turk has proven resistant to its form of attack, and it's taken to mimicking him. It bothers Handog most. The surprise gets to me, but I don't have any trouble with its secondary disturbances. At least I think it might be amusing itself, forgive me the pun, but I'm glad of the irony that it lacks a black sense of humor. Who knows, maybe it will prove helpful in the end. Dr. Pigmon signing off. This is still the 5th night, 6th of our records, 73 rounds of initial reactions. 73 rounds after initial reactions. Handog would deserve the cough to the head. I'm going to get Turgo a beer. The sleeping breathing continues. The other chuckles under his breath. Presumably Turgo joins in. Recording terminates after approximately 1 more second. Number 7. If the words... Time passes approximately 10 seconds. Sound of a motor is audible in the background. We almost went into that house. That mother slipped up, though Handog the one that caught the significance. Turgo assumed she miscounted. I thought she included the statue. It didn't leave with us, must have transferred to someone in the house. Handog, though, he'd been on the edge since the statue started following us, borderline paranoia, but it paid off. I thought I was keeping an eye out. If we got into that house, 10% chance to escape infection. The distance on the map would have meant nothing after that. I owe Handog an apology. He's not suited for permanent field work, but he's quick thinking and well read. Toga identified a city with a sector in the industrial district nearby. He trained there, he says. Okay, the cloud cover is finally... Wait, so I'm confused. So who's the she? Handog is the one who caught the signal. Turkey assumed she'd miscounted. Okay. So it must be somebody else that showed up for a quick second. The cloud cover is finally breaking up a little, but it's far from the clear sky. Nice to see the stars now and then. 5 days to... Can't say, I mentioned there's a sector there, but 5 days and maybe we'll get some answers. There's a 7 of the records documenting our attempt to return. Dr. Pitman signing off, night 6. 74 rounds still remain. Background noise continues for nearly 2 seconds. Yep, that's the same as before. Time passes about 10 seconds. Always 10 seconds, man. Sword sounds consistent with the cleaning of a civilian-grade hunting rifle are audible in the background. If we return, I will write a personal letter of thanks to the founder of the Foundation. I don't care that they won't get it. These things are... There's a brief pause and a short burst of nervous laughter. These things are redacted. You can choose your expletive of choice. Whatever idiot savant type green created that godforsaken cloudfish needs to get a visit from Outer Clef. I don't know whether to be thankful that the first time Turger looked up was through the sunroof of our Jeep or curse the decision to take an extra gear and install some on the roof. I hope the damn thing chokes on the shotgun. Everything else is replaceable, but we're probably going to be stuck with the sidearms and the 8 shots in the rifle at least until we make the city, and after that bloody cloud. 4 days. This is the 8th of the record documenting our attempts to return. Document 1 signing off. Night 7. Shotgun lost. 72 rounds remain. Brief humorous round of laughter. Plenty of food though. Number 9. If the time passes about 10. Time passes. Oh god, let me just. You guys don't understand. For the entire month of December, I had some ear issue because every time I leaned back or did lean in a certain way, I got so dizzy. Now it's gone. Finally, it feels good to lean back without having to feel like the whole world flipping upside down. A soft sound of the surf is audible, not quite close to the microphone. It sounds like it's crashing against rocks as opposed to onto sand. We can put a rough date on the incursion. That's what I'm calling them now. The arrival of the anomalies. I've been studying the map we found. We seem to be in the Atlantic archipelago. That's the UK, if you're unfamiliar with the term. I thought the driving time was unrealistic. But Turco was right. Well, we could drive from where we started near. Damn it all to hell, I can't even speak openly. We're going to the city on the other end of the country, and we can't drive straight there because we have to keep stopping and hunting for gas stations and still have gas to siphon off. So we have to keep deterring through this awful abandoned world. Well, maybe get chop the gas stations tube off and then find some cars and do the whole good old trick. At least they tried to abandon it. We found out where most of the people ended up. The ones the anomalies inland didn't get. We stopped at a coastal city. The highway took us there. Roads aren't too crowded, thankfully, but the cliffs and beaches, and there are boats everywhere. Smashed against cliffs. The view that made it ashore safely were abandoned to the surf. Wasn't that an SCP that spawned boats to fall from the sky? Is that what this one is? Thank God it's late winter, not mating season, or we probably have been dead just being close enough to see those beaches. Drowning though, better than Connor's got. My theory is all it happened at once. Anomalies arrived, probably decimated the population. Panic ensued, mass exodus failed. They must have ran out of boats eventually, and considering the nature of some of the more volatile anomalies, it can't have taken long to reduce the standing population to 70%. 7%. The smart ones, we won't see them. They'll be too smart to approach us or attack us. They probably got a good idea of when it's safe to move around, and a car in a silent world is a pretty loud announcement of our approach. 3 days. There's a 9th of the records documenting our attempts to return. Dr. Pippin signing off. Night 8. 72 rounds remain. Number 10. If the time passes about 10 seconds, the 2 sets of quiet breathing consistent with those heard in previous recordings are audible in the background, as is a repetitive tapping like that of a foot. We are no longer traveling after dark. When we find a place to secure for the night, it must be cleared by nightfall, or we're just sleeping in the car. You never forget the smell of that thing. Turk remembered it from a voluntary stint on cattle duty, covering for a short staffed skip after a breach. It stinks like gas and oil, and death and rot. Imagine a corpse drenched in Vaseline. Is that the old man? The old man that passed through walls, or like that? It wouldn't let us take another step until we knew where the anomaly was. I just pulled in a hollow. We could have walked straight through it on our way to the door across from where we were staying. It wasn't mimicking anything, though. I suppose in the place of relatively frequent food, it must have been easy to be a dog paladin and hope someone paranoid would trapeze into a dangerous group to save someone else. It's getting harder to balance safety with the urge to get to the side. We all want to go home. We all want to get home. Hand-Dog isn't allowed to drive, which means splitting up data between myself and Turger. The other sleeps in the car. We all need to be awake when we scout a campsite. There's a 10th of the records documenting our attempts to return. Signing off. Night 9, 72 rounds to remain. Okay. Number 11. We're making good progress reading this, actually. Almost halfway. If the words... Yeah, okay. Time passes about 10 seconds. Hard breathing is audible twofold with a third set of breath, slow and calm. One of the panting voices swears under the breath at infrequent intervals. If this goes this fast, this might take more time. But hey, at least the last two ones are short then. Hander got a hair trigger and he probably just saved Turger's life. If I remember the file right, we could have all died easily. Got sat in the corner and at some point, bam, someone dies. It bloats and goes for seconds. But the hand dog was out of sight when it started moving and it was startled enough. When he entered the room, to just gun it down. What the fuck makes something like under his breath? Bateman speaks. There is no fear. Fear is the mind killer, and with the mind gone, we're all dead. Anomaly gone, room cleared. Turk's recovering from the abuela. Abulia? I said abuela. He returns to normal speaking volume. This is the 11th of the records documenting our attempts to return. Dr. Bateman signing off. Night 10, 60 rounds remain. Handler gets to clear the next gun shop we find to replace his ammo. The thing must have been dead after the 6th shot and he just kept firing. Can't really blame him. That thing was ugly. Get that tomorrow and we'll see what's going on. Number 12. Here we go. If the words quiet and panting is audible in the background and sounds consistent with loading rounds into a magazine audible at what seems to be some slight distance from the microphone. Background audio includes occasional distant vocalization that do not match the spectrum of sounds produced by a human larynx. Esoteric containment mean nothing to you. Fuck off. In the middle of silence elapses, the magazine ceases to be lowered and can be heard being placed into a gun. A few moments later, it is ejected, the bullets removed, and loading begins again. This repeats throughout the entire recording. At no point or any more or less than 7 rounds inserted into the magazine. Can't even fucking say what we saw. We're termed if we ever make it back. Handog's dead. I shouldn't have sent him in the fucking gun shop alone. You sent him alone? Why would you do that? The facility is intact, even powered in some areas. We're too tired to look tonight. I don't know how far we ran. We won't be able to get back to the car if what we need isn't down here. There's a 12 of the records documenting our attempts to return. Dr. Pittman signing off. Night 11, 15 rounds. 15 rounds! 2 sidearms remain. Time passes 30 seconds or so. I used to fucking love Peppermint. Damn it all to hell. What happened? What happened with Peppermint? You can still do it. You can still love Peppermint, man. If the words, that's bad. Normal time passes about 10 seconds. The exhaustion and frustration in Pittman's voice present in the last recording have faded. He sounds professional once more. And 2 sets of footsteps audible in the background. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. The site might be intact, but containment certainly isn't. We've seen the evidence of anomalies that weren't even stored at the site. I should have said that last time. We holed up in one of the observation rooms for a pretty dangerous anomaly. It was fortified, physical door locked, and nothing around to cause a problem. We slept in shifts. We are unsafe. We can hear movement and other things from distant parts of the site, but we had training for situations like this. Back in the site, it all comes back quick. The first room Turger thought we could use wasn't much of a room anymore. There was a bathroom of a level above, and I guess the Foundation didn't discover that particular anomaly prior to all this. The roof was blasted out, but part of the floor was slacked down into the containment chamber below. Not all accounted for, though. Guess it's not surprising considering the temperature involved. Vapor doesn't leave a lot behind. What's left in the containment chamber below might have been what ended things. It matches the containment procedure, and despite the overwhelming scent of char, I can still smell the fucking mint. Whoever was in here when the room above hit a few thousand Kelvin, sure as hell would have constituted a dead body. It's the 13th of the records documenting our attempts to return. Dr. Pittman signing off. Day 12, 15 rounds still remain. We're heading for the archive to see what we kept here. Background noise and continuous. Okay, back to 2 seconds. Let me just... If the words... Yeah, okay. Time passed about... This yeah. Time passed about 10 seconds. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. There are also faint sounds consistent with an individual standing in place, shifting their weight occasionally. Had to move through Euclid containment to reach the archives. We don't have much in the way of supplies, so we relocated our base of operations. Always thought it was kind of silly making the archives one of the most secure places in the facility. I'm not laughing now. This might be safe enough to keep us alive. More bodies in a half an hour. I'll have to make myself some rice in the rice cooker. More bodies in a few of the sealed rooms around the archives. That way, it will be done cooking by the time I'm done here. Mobiles only in rooms that respond to security badges. Also, unresponsiveness, but clean dress, no obvious cause, like they're being kept seriously concerning. Cochineal hazard, maybe. We saw someone down on the hallway, looked alive, but the damnedest thing is that I swear I saw one of them early today, but it was brain dead. Still stunning that they are alive at all. I guess at the... Right, can't talk about them. But they don't come down here. I think the stuff below scares them. I hope to God it's the stuff below that here that scares them. There's a 14th of the record documenting our attempts to return. Documenting signing off. Day 13. 15 rounds remain. Okay. 15. Time passed about 10 seconds. There are sounds of indicating an individual shuffling through some papers near the speakers. Speaker background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. Also presence of footsteps indicative of an individual pacing around the room, likely on watch. I do not like what I'm seeing. We left the archives just once today to check the canteen for supplies. No problem obtaining some, but I'm sure I saw someone watching us. They were gone when we left with our supplies, though I have no idea where they went. Had a panic attack when I realized they were weakening. Decaying spots on the walls, but they aren't actively falling apart. It's not him. Would have known if he was here. Would be fucked if he was here. I checked the spot where I remember the doll, the living body, nobody home. Then I thought I saw yesterday. Still there, different position, and I'm sure there wasn't dust on the cuffs of his legs before. They're moving or being moved, just not when we're here. I took a roundabout way back to camp. Don't think we've been followed. Guess we'll find out if whoever I saw has a factory gear. Not like walls are going to keep them out. We'll have to stay hidden. Still searching for records of what I hope is here. Beans for dinner, yum. Bimonson, he suggests overwhelming satisfaction with the contents of his meal. Yeah, I mean, he probably either had enough or he's just not happy with it. It's the 15th of the records documenting all attempts to return, signing off, day 14, 15 rounds remain. 16, time passed about 10 seconds. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. Second set of respiration suggests a sleeping individual. More signs of our companions, always at a distance, always gone when we check later, always near those decayed patches. Pretty confident that that's factory work. Still not sure how the dolls are moving. More were out of place. It's never much different, but it is. I'm sure of it. Turger's been giving me some weird looks, but he trusts me. I know what I'm talking about. Encountered an anomaly when we went to check out an archive annex one floor down. I haven't got a clue how the observation chamber got relocated into one of the hallways. We detoured around, but not before watching a few cycles. Waste of a minute, but it was nice to see some human beings for a little. Even if they do get shot, and who knows what happens after the flash. Hope they're okay. It's weird. I never cared before, but now I really do hope they're okay, whatever they are, wherever they are, not whatever. Yes, I'm just more sympathetic now. The 16th day, yeah, 15 rounds, yeah, okay. 17 and 18 can be read in one go. If the words contain nothing to you, stop listening. Time passed about 10 seconds. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. Two individuals exhibit rapid respiration consistent with a state of panic. He's completely irrational. I know he won't act if we don't open the door. I know it won't, and I know for a fact that if we do open the door, everyone's voice cracks. They evolves into hyperventilation for a brief moment before we can get himself under control. But it won't. It will, and we're fucked if it doesn't leave. I fucking hate cognitive hazards. I'd rather run from them upstairs and sit here cowering. They'll give me his gun to make sure he doesn't waste bullets. Or himself. 43 seconds pass. Rapid breathing remains consistent with a panic state. How does he like do all this, but then everything else is like back to like normal? 18 if the words. Okay, back to normal. Here. Time passes about 10 seconds. Back when we could see consistent previous recordings. Still here. And yeah, that's the same. Okay. Oh, okay. Now we're going rapid. 19. Time passes about 10. Back when we could see previous recordings. Still there. 20. Still there. I just want to go home. 21. Still there. Out of the water. We're going to die. 22. Still there. Out of food. 23. Paper begins this recording the tone suggesting triumph bordering on a mania. Additional voice in background is laughing in frantic relief. The words esoteric containment mean nothing to you. Stop listening, you lucky son of a bitch. Time passes about 10 seconds. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. Laughing subsides to a chuckle. Sounds of firearms maintenance can be heard. The fucking dolls. Whatever's moving them, one must have threatened line of sight on the bastard. He's gone, and we found ourselves to get out here and get some goddamn water. I had to use the restroom faucets to rinse out and refill the bottles. Someone's locked the canteen doors with a rock. At least that's what I figured was gonna be there. Turger tried to force the door open, but the way he stumbled back so far, looking stalled, I didn't let him try more than once more. It was hard to reverse, and he winced hard when he kicked it again. Got him away from the door. There's a patch of discolored paint next to the door. Pretty sure we can thank the dolls for this. Still, we have food. It could have been worse. They could have locked our door. This is the 22nd information is available. 22nd of the records documenting our attempts to return. Nope, 23rd, but yeah, fine. 22, 15. Yep. Still 15 rounds. They're not wasted in that panic. Time passed about 10 seconds. Background vocalization are consistent with previous recordings. Additional audio suggests a second individual engaged in the act of eating. The annex has been compromised. Contagious typos. Secondary individual disputes the definition. It might as well be typos. Turker, for all good, a bad written self-insert fancy does us. A dozen file cabinets and 3 PCs ruined. We checked ourselves for any materials that could bring the infection back. Left them there. I'm glad I left my code upstairs today. Might have infected our recordings. We haven't lost much, but we have to go deeper tomorrow. We have exhausted the options on this floor and one below. There's another canteen 3 floors down. We'll locate a safe room before restocking. This is the 23rd of the records documenting our attempts to return. Okay. 25. If the words, time passed about 10 seconds. Background vocalizations are consistent with previous recordings, though fainter. Additional audio suggests the recordings occur while Pitman and Turker are in transit on foot. I hope both of them get out. Annex 2 floors down from base 1 was empty, except for a single sheet of, I think it was leather, middle of the room, and then the door could get close. Not if that's what I think it is. I think annex is a bad term for a room that's something like 100 feet on the side. This place could is a bad term for a room that's something like 100 feet on its side. This place could almost be on its own archive. Could have been anyway. There was one file cabinet left, crammed back in the corner, but I think he would have been pushing awful close to the edge of the jump radius. We can't afford to pick that thing up on anything we're relying on. We just keep looking. One more floor to a third set of footsteps becomes rapidly audible. Faint growing static is heard overwhelming the audio. A previously unheard voice calls for someone to get out of the way. Shit, Tugger, we got... Audio results into uselessness for 6 minutes, 28 seconds. Fluctuation suggests an attempt to record strong nearby sounds. Recording ends, but here we have a continued, which leads to a whole nother thing. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's cool. Duh. Wait, so let me see something. Were they all? Which one is this one too? Okay, 749. It's probably 420. Okay, these are all like SCPs. That makes sense. Yeah. So they're all SCPs that like, yeah. So each one has an SCP that they mention and you can actually check it out. Yeah, that's cool. It makes sense. It makes sense because like, so which one is this? 303. That makes absolute sense. It's behind the door. It's there and only vanishes after a certain amount of time. Yeah, that makes sense. Why? But then this is it just like gonna be the same? No, this one is 033 and this is 890. Oh, okay, cool. Recording resumes. You doctor had no idea about the battery leaking. I owe you my thanks. Stay safe. Christ, just wanted to get the leaky battery out before it ruined this device. Would have lost our records. I like that. We get like a mini combat adventure with every like different SCPs. I completely forgot about the sand that eats you. Yeah, it makes sense. That's terrifying. I don't even know why it aren't all necessary to survival. Because it's like it's made out of like very tiny yeah. Man, that's fucking hell. Series 1, dude. Recording these keeps me feel grounded. Sane, I suppose. So now I feel guilty for not taking better care of my recorder. So there's that theory out of the window. Anyway, this is the 24th of the records documenting our attempts to return. I do wish I actually had my channel, the Dr. AfroFluff channel, back then when I started uploading. Like with series 1 when I did like individual thumbnails at first, but then I only read like a couple, but then I decided to do 10, but then I upload all the entire recording all in once. Yeah, I wish I made the Dr. AfroFluff channel from scratch way back in the day and did like individual pieces, because I would have helped so much with keeping track of what series 1 SCPs were all about, because then I can just look them up. That is one of the major reasons why really I can actually keep somewhat track of the SCPs, is because I have now a whole like a YouTube channel that just is archiving them all, and I can look at the thumbnail, the title, and the descriptions, and be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Same I suppose. Oh no, I feel guilty for not taking better care of my recorder. So they are the theory out the window. Anyway, this is the 24. Still 15 rounds. Background noise continues for nearly. Yep. Okay. Number 26. We're almost at the end. Time passed about 10 seconds. I want to say that the stairwell we approached was flooded, but that's not quite right. Maybe it was one of the at one point. Maybe it was at one point. The corridors one floor down are steel-walled chamber to seal in an emergency. The one by the stairwell. I'm hungry. I was filled with what looked like bustle. I'm also feeling a little bit tired, but I will try my best to finish all today. If not, I will stop here and record the rest tomorrow. Tons and tons of solid, smooth basalt, tested with a depth monitor, broke the rock left a splash frozen stone. No way we get through here. Another stairwell at the north end of this block. We'll try tomorrow. This is 25th of the record. 25. Second individual remarks volume is insufficient to make a dialogue. Yeah, I'm tired too. We'll try to make a break when we make it to the canteen. 27. Time passed about 10 seconds. Soft breathing. Nearby pitch suggests a female physiology. Distant rhythmic footsteps in a still pattern. And so are we three. Terry insists we bring her along. I'm not so sure, but she's only dangerous if we hurt her. So we won't. I'd be more comfortable without the tag along, but as long as we not here more than a month and she doesn't get torn up any took and hand over his shoes so she wouldn't step on glass or rubble. I could suggesting we ask if she's willing to let us harvest a little venom, but Turk is so keen to have company of some kind that's not trying to kill us. Not worth it. Made good progress, at least. We're 2 floors down. Next floor should have the canteen. 14 rounds remain. Just nerves. Damn, it's oh fuck! You almost shot at her. That would have gone horribly wrong. Okay, 28 and 29. Let's read them together. Strain is evident in the voice of the speaker. If the time passes about 10 seconds, I'm all alone. I am alone. And 12 seconds passes in silence. The door opened where there had been none before. Took a pot up the gun, finger off the trigger, standard procedure. I guess she never saw the movies, the coasting, then flying. She just turned him off and left. The woman stayed by his body. I took the gun and left. I couldn't have taken her out of here anyway. This is the 27th of the records documenting our attempt to return. Dr. Pittman signing off alone. 27, 14 rounds remain. That's a shame. What did you deal with here? 239. Shame. Shame that happened. Time passed about 10 seconds. I was hoping that both of them would get out of this situation. New base camp, good place to store supplies. It's extremely defensible. True, it's loud, but anything drawn by the noise is already going to be affected. Just need to remember to watch my footing. There'll be a lot of blood if I have to play anything. There's 28th of the record segment. Dr. Bateman signing off. From the round. Yeah, okay. 30. If the words are so there, yeah. Time passes about 10 seconds in which indistinct and apparently amicable discourse occurs in the background between 2 male subjects, including the speaker. It's almost amusing the things of which you can be reminded. If I've been asked to brief someone else on how to handle this fellow here, I have to say don't shoot first or at all. I completely forgot he was backing up our database. It's a new one, but should work. 1780. Oh, 1780, okay. I just needed an office and some patience. Is this here as well? No. There's a 20, but wait, 1780. Let me see this. Oh yeah, that's 1780. Yeah, it's the office. Yeah. That's the one we just looked from the author of 2000. Yeah, makes sense. And some patience. This is 29th for the record. Yeah, okay. What does this lead to? That's just, hey, nice. If time passes about 10 seconds. Yeah, almost done. Okay. The x-axis is the longest one. It felt hard to keep going when it was just me. Having Turk on my arm meant I had someone to watch out for, meant I had to watch my mouth too. Not like he's clear for all this, but it was motivating. Now, just me. Well, that's enough. I'm almost done. 1780 wasn't too hard to get. It was hard to get to, sure, though some things were just a little comical. The manhole, for instance, in the middle of a secure facility. The strange thing was the IV. Someone had hooked it up to something. Wires and batteries and plugs. So much power and it all seemed to do nothing. Maybe it was responsible for all this. I can't tell, really. I haven't got the luxury to sit here and try to unravel all that. It doesn't matter. I've got to get back. I've been too lucky by half. The cop keeping the salesman company, the rats, both sorts, the smart ones and the sharp ones, the candy and the fish. Christ, I hate compulsives. Turker never really thought to ask why I knew so much about all these things. It's not like the database is an open book. You read what you assign to, nothing more. Usually some assignments require more in-depth familiarity. EC3 doesn't stand for esoteric containment, but I couldn't very well tell them that. Easier for all of us if they were just working with some researcher. They expect us to know everything anyway, far easier than explaining. I've rigged the nameplate at an angle. When I slam this door, it breaks static friction and allow it to slide out of the holder. This room is a crapshoot, but it's better than all this. There wasn't a pop or rush of air or anything. It's like it's always been connected to the room on the other side. I open it, so I just need to step through, slam the door. I can feel the bit of metal in my hand, grab it with all the pregnancy of possibility. I know what's on the other side of the door. Time and space relative to a single room that is anything but singular, spread out and away like forever. It's the 30th. The records documenting my hopeful successful attempt to return. Signing off, day 42. Wow. Day 29 to 42. Whoa. If the words is to take, the time passes about 10 seconds. I'm still waiting. Background noise continues for nearly. The recording resumes an uncertain amount of time. Later, there are several days of silent recording of nothing besides the returning of pages, sounds of two guns, one sidearm and a large firearm being disassembled, cleaning and reassembled, and pacing footsteps. After 207 hours, Pittman speaks. His voice reflects strain consistent with prolonged solitary confinement. Nothing runs out here. I'm not going to do the voice acting like a strain right now because I'm fucking hungry as hell. My voice could not. You know what? Nothing runs out here. I haven't run out of time or energy or gun oil or battery. Tanya paused, and the note of tension increased the tone of Pittman's voice. Except reading material. I'm out of that. Safe for the letter, and I'm going to be reading that. I've read the excerpt. I'm not scared, but it's not the way back. I can ignore one sheet of paper for as long as I have to. Speech stops and activity lapses into the aforementioned pattern of behavior. These continue despite the limitation of the amount of information that can be stored on the digital recording device. Recording continues as above without pause. The enriched time audio analysis of the recording shows 4 vocalized patterns matching Pittman's readings of the text of Oxford unabridged English dictionary in 3 variants of time times life great ages of man. A history of the world's culture repeating a collective total of 923 times with slight but detectable increase in vocal tremors. As time goes on, at 4,763 hours and 27 minutes, the door opens, a single pair of footsteps enter the room, approaching the recorder, and recording ends. A second voice cuts into the middle of a sentence, apparently instructing Pittman to go ahead with something. Pittman speaks, nothing more stable, but significantly more guarded in tone. If the word, I'm going to actually read this one because I think it's the last one now. Yeah. If the words esoteric containment mean nothing to you, stop listening. Time passes about 10 seconds, and the second voice speaks, prompting Pittman to continue. I'm sitting at a table across from a man I've never met, but I've read about. He told me that we'll meet later in a less tense situation, and he stated he can get me back when I need to go. Emphasis on when. There's only so many exit points into our world, so many active instances, and the only one that's not going to result in classification as 1780-2 is... Jesus, is that what this whole mess was for? Three people dead in a world we never knew them, and all to get me to one when... Wait. 3 people dead in a world that never knew them, and all to get me to one when. Not even me, but someone who knows what I know. Short pause. How do you know what EC actually stands for? The second voice speaks shortly. Of course I did. God damn it. Every attendant researcher in all of the D-class have already been killed or incapacitated by the time the instance becomes active. This is accurate. I don't want to do this, Shiank. Takyong control circuit or not. I'm seriously tempted to just take one of the other doors, containment or not. Do you know what the procedure entails? Longer pause, silence on both sides, then a heavy sigh. No, you wouldn't, or you do it yourself, that's why I'm here. Another considerably longer pause, and the second of a chair moving, someone standing. Oh, why I'll do it? It's not like I don't already know what involved. Just never thought I'd have to participate. A series of footsteps, then another in tandem move away from the recorder. Distantly, Pittman speaks. When you're ready. The door clicks, and immediately the far-off sound of screaming and the nearest sound of panicked voices fill the room. See you later, X. You have to explain that tachyon control circuit deal some other time, the long way. I'm done with managings. Footsteps proceed away from the recorder, and Pittman's voice covers the sound of chaos. No time to panic, people. We all just been requisitioned by order of the ethics committee. I've already been briefed on procedure 110 Montauk, forward and backwards, and we still got time to do this if you shut up and do as you're told. You all got amnestics and commendations as soon as we're done, but we got on. The door clicks shut, and the sound died instantly. Footsteps slow and almost ponderous in the wake of Pittman's departure approach the recorder. A heavy sigh is heard before the second voice speaks. Oh my god, my stomach is growling. I hate saying this, but you can't give him the amnestic. Deny him this experience, and he's going to be half ready for what comes down the line. He needs this edge, and he needs this drama. We need him a little broken, so don't fix him, or we just have to do it again. Background noise continues for nearly 2 seconds before the recording ends. Oh boy. Oh god. I hope the next one is not going to take... It shouldn't take me as long. It seems to be shorter. Let me just quickly read the thing that he... Alright. I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to turn on the lights up there and also go prepare some rice and go have a little snack. I say I'll be right back as if I'm not just going to cut this out anyway. But yeah, just a heads up. Just a heads up for y'all. I'm back. I'm still eating on my banana real quick. But I'm here. Quick snack. Rice is in the rice cooker. Let's go on. So here we have the researcher note that says temporal things can be useful for a lot of things. Containing SCP object for which you need 1 second to last 300,000 years is a good example. Although the point of reference constant during temporal repair missions is so that you can meaningfully record your progress and undo serious mistakes is another. But natural causal relationships are flexible in a way the human mind is not equipped to deal with meaningfully, and creating more than a small handful of isolated static casualties will do more damage temporal integrity than secure it. Exacts will not be implemented foundation-wide. Yes, we have tried it during a past iteration. No further inquiries into the results of that attempt will not be accepted. No further inquiries into the results of that attempt will not be accepted. Oh, so no comma, no further required. Okay. Dr. Thaddeus Shank, which we had him at the end of Laura Henry's story right there. Temporal anomalies, and this is one. Actually, I'm kind of figuring out that this one, and I hope y'all forgive me. I think we should have this one as its own thing. Because, where was it? I feel like it's like a whole, the temporal anomaly cycle. I feel like there's like a whole actual story behind and I do realize after a while, even though for the SCP itself I like doing it, but being thrown, unless it's being mentioned here, which let's see if it is. Let's see if 200 is being mentioned here. It isn't. What about Yellowstone? Is Yellowstone being mentioned here? No, that isn't either. Restructure. So yeah, that's what I mean. I'm in the middle. It's smack in the middle of a. No, I won't. I'm part of me was like, I'm giving excuses. I promise this is part of the subscriber special to read all the doctors like links. It's just that I know I have 2 more to go. But yeah, no, I'm not giving myself an excuse. At first I was like, maybe I should put this, make its own thing with like the whole temporal anomaly tail connection, because it's clearly all connected into one. As we can see down here, it's like part 1 iteration, then part 3 erstwhile, and again, you know. But no, I feel like we can just read the deep end and just go. Should be fine. On the table there behind the glass, time was about to break. Thad smiled. As also, this is to learn about all the doctors. Otherwise, it would not make sense. Well, it would not make sense to skip us. Thad smiled cautiously as number flew past his vision as he checked the math again and again and again. It should work, or rather, it should stop working, just as he has predicted. Miss Anastasakos? Yes, doctor. Athena replied. Athena Anastasakos. Yeah, Jesus. How many A's do you want in your name, girl? Replied confidently, a statement, not a question, as she pulled her hair into a tight bun to keep it from her eyes. Scrupulously, she scanned the tiny ant farm on the table with its houses and simple electric lights and tiny microphones and cameras and little cars running along the little tracks all laid out meticulously about a miniature AM, VM, VHF, UHV transceiver. We are powered off, ready for control tests. 5 years now since SCP-176 went tits up and trapped several dozen good young researchers and at least 4 paramilitary pukes in an endless cycle of creation and destruction. A full year or so had been spent trying to solve it. When that proved impossible, Xiang tried to break. Is it supposed to be like Shi Yang maybe? Tried to break it for another 3 years. And finally, out of ideas, the last year was used to bottle it. The Euclid classification was little more than a formality at this point, and he learned a lot. The Foundation learned a lot. There was something. Eine Stunde. A full year had been that was something, and as a way of saying thank you, they given him another tachyon emitter to dissect. All right, Dr. Xiang said, cracking his knuckles. I'm about to activate the snooze alarm on SCP-281. Mr. Kitterman, if you would kindly roll film on my mark. Ready, said the lithe junior researcher from behind his panel. 3, 2, 1, mark. With a loud crack, several ants had died from the temporal pressure, and all the little electric cars jumped instantly to their new places. 2 light bulbs had burned out. Video captured in excess of 9 minutes 57 seconds in the space of 1 millisecond. All right, now we're cooking. Talia said with a nod. Mr. Kitterman, talk to me about ambient radiation. Xiang demanded from behind the glare of ancient lenses. So wait, hold on now. Yeah, it's the same one. Okay. It's interesting that it switches between calling him Thaddeus and calling him Xiang. Marcus Kitterman spun and slid his way down the bank of instruments. He stopped himself before the correct panel, making low humming and chuckling noises to himself as he built the various readings into a gradient and overlaid the gradient into the room in which they all stood. Fingers crossed and breath bated. 3 scientists prayed for an end of time as they knew it. Nothing even close to hazardous. We have to be in here about 8 years just to be sure we had cancer. Marcus delivered a smiling thumbs up. We're green. It came to him one evening as though from a dream. SCP-1950 was the same as SCP-176, but the field was too powerful and the loop was still open. SCP-281, 1979, 119, and 1859 all stem from the same basic anomaly with different dilations and constraints. There were patterns in these anomalies, even weird ones like 982 and 1309. The tachyon field model could accommodate them all, and some even made this event boundary hypothesis look less like desperation, more like a legitimate explanation. And that was when a time before whispered in his when a time before whispered in his ear reminded him of the item SV084. Number SV084. Is this still the same? Is this Thaddeus? I assume so. Initiating transmission for the experiment record, will be using video from the Ed Sullivan Show at 1.28 GHz and live feeds from FM 89.3, 99.9, and 107.1 MHz, and AM 545, 890, and 1240 kHz. Atty said. Atty. Oh, this is a whole different person. Her fingers strumming across the keypad before her. The signals will be broadcast at power of 10 watts and should keep our area of effect under 10 meter in radius. Outstanding. They were calling it the static tower, probably because temporal spatial mindfuck had already been taken. Documentation back home had clearly labeled 084 as a temporal anomaly in its own right, but whether through clerical negligence or prevailing attitudes of a different nature, the Foundation of 1997 had labeled it a radioactive space-time anomaly. Not incorrect, but not the most descriptive interpretation. One look at the flicker phenomenon, it was obvious. The spatial distortion was a result, most of all, of the temporal distortion around the tower, and why, among all other temporal anomalies, did 084 alone exhibit this odd spatial reflection and scattering? Because the tower was pumping out a thronging mass of EM radiation, and nearly 100 watts. All of it, every last nanosecond, could be explained without the need of anything so vulgar as a temporal paradox. Paradoxes don't exist in nature. Hypothesis: tachyon fields can be manipulated with powerful radio signals. Procedure: hook up a known tachyon emitter to transmitter, transmit from it on multiple frequencies, and see if you get something like 084. At least that's how it looked on paper. Maybe it was a risk to try reproducing it in a lab. Strike that, it was absolutely a risk, but without risk there is no gain, and if Xiong could break time so thoroughly and put it back when it was done, that meant he understood time. It meant he understood time travel. It meant it was only a matter of a few relative safe experiments to find a system to predict travel with frequencies from now to anywhen. It meant he could finally go home. Begin transmission, if you please. Several oscillating waves overlaid one another on the screen above, and Marcus Kidman let out a whistle at what to him appeared to be a gibbering line of chaos. Radiation is still steady, thank God. Good, Xiang said, brushing some silvering hair back away from his face. I'm going to try turning 281 back on. Mr. Kidman, let's see about film capture on my mark. Marcus opened his mouth, let out a final objection, but thought about it. Junior researcher versus tenured dog, that would be really short conversation anyway. Ready? What was that saying? Something about finishing what you start? He'd think of it later. Mark. No sharp spark, nothing actually. An eerie silence that everything in the bubble seemed to freeze for a second, and fitfully started forward and back. Holy, Kidman said softly, and flooded in clumps and trails and over houses. Cars leapt willy-nilly upon the tracks. Lights flickered the film from the cameras inside ran back and forth, and it was useless. We did it. Save it, we unfinished yet. Xiang flipped a switch and took hold of a small joystick. Commencing drop test 1. 084 produces a spatial anomaly around itself such that no objects can approach within 200 meters of the tower. It is surrounded by infinite space. If this was an accurate scale representation before him now, the ball in the basket directly above it should fall forever, never going closer to its target than 2 meters. It wasn't. The ball fell straight and true, and at the same time the anomalies that they had all witnessed stopped happening wholesale. Miss Anastasakos, we're still transmitting, she replied, disbelieving. Mr. Kitterman, radiation level in there is still consistent with an active field, but I don't see anything that would lead me to believe there's a distortion present. The film is even coming through now. Fuck, what had he missed? It wasn't supposed to go like this. The model said models are only as good as the math behind them, so what about this math? Had it been perfect? Had he fat-fingered a digit somewhere? Threw a decimal? Forgotten to carry a 1? Stay here, I'll be right back. Anastasakos began to ask. Run a few more trials. If I'm not back in 20 minutes exactly, turn it off. Yes, sir. Double doors out the observation room, down a quick hallway to the end where his office and his whiteboards and his notes were. He's gonna double, triple, quadruple check the net math. Damn it, it looked so clear, now it didn't work at all. Had he been too conservative with the interference pattern? Was the signal strong enough? Equations flow past his vision as he jogged, second guessing and wondering and hypothesized and desperately trying to find his answer. Super bin auf Video. Alright, Thad said, wiping some tears from his brow. Everyone listen up, because the door opened and Thaddeus Chiang, is this a footnote? 6 stepped inside, closing the door behind him before even looking up. Chiang 1 cleared. Oh, so it's multiple of them. The newcomer stopped dead, looked up to a sea of his own face looking back at him, and sank dumbstruck to a perch on a shelf by the door. So I was saying, one continued, I don't even have time to explain this once. Based on what we are all experiencing, our 084 experiment was arguably a success. The whole room wins in unison. That 1, 2, and 3 wiped blood from their ears and swore and cursed the day that they ever had this half-cocked idea. I thought it wasn't supposed to hurt. He, number 4, hollered, pressing his temples together and stamping his feet, not stomping. Electrical components, the doctor 2 snipped, curled and tapped himself on the temple. Stop, just move past it, Chiang 1 said, eyes plastered shut, a 2-second beat to collect himself and put his glasses back on. The point is, we seem to have initiated some kind of temporal isolation event and opened infinite loop. So, Thad 6 asked him timidly, it actually worked. Oh yeah, Thaddeus smirked, watching the clock on the wall advance and fall back as cautiously wobbled all around him. It worked. And we're sure it's not a multiverse event, 6 says. Thad still blinking in a bit of shock. 2 scratched at his nose and pulled his lips tight. Employee ID number, anyone? 0927 7182 3740 0918 said all in unison. Paradox, Thad 5 said, head hitting his desk. God damn it. Okay, good. 3 stood up and tapped himself a cup of water, which he immediately dropped when another brief... Actually, let me check something. Okay, no hidden text. Another brief ripple of spasm leapt across the room. Xiang 3 hit the water cooler with the heel of his palm, and it bubbled its unconscious reply. Inviolable, these animate objects, especially at no time like this. If it is a paradox, there's got to be a way to resolve it, right? Paradoxes don't exist in nature. I'm getting to that, Sub 1 said, and started throwing a diagram on the board. That this is the world line, like a river flowing from the past to the future. What we did was take a bubble. Here he drew a small oval on the side of the line and replicated it at regular intervals all over the surrounding space. How far? 5 asked. At least 20, probably more, Dr. Xiang 2 replied, arms crossed as he's following along. 6 whistled and let his head bounce off the cabinet. How much had he, 6, missed? One of these bubbles just so happened to land right here in this room. Something about how the other 281 bubbles are interacting with this one is causing us to, at regular intervals, Young one braced his arms on the desk and rolled his head, 2 drops of red hitting the table and jumping back up his nose. That one hadn't been so bad. Yeah, it was like, it's intervals backwards, huh? Regular. Well, no, it's not. Intervals and then it's intervals backwards. Raluger at regular, yeah. And then here it is. Okay, so us 2 and okay, what's the ing? What could that be? Okay, cool. Figure that one out. Every so often we run into the external world line, another one of me. All of you even walks through the door. Has anyone tried leaving? 6. The second most haggard-looking member of the party shook his head. That's how I got here. Thaddeus and 1 and Xiang 2 tightened their lips in and nodded together. Not going to work. But, 4 jumped up. We might be able to keep it from getting any worse if we keep the next iteration from entering, yes? 4 clapped in excitement. Brilliant! He can even go turn it off and then it'll be over. For whom? 3 asked solemnly, and he was right. There were 2 possible outcomes to this scenario. Void and eternity. There will be no escape, at least not for these assembled. O84 creates infinite space and infinite time within its boundary, even if they turn out the device off, and even if they normally subside from an exterior perspective, and even if they could actually prevent lucky number 7 from passing over to the threshold into this little pocket they had created for themselves, it would not be over. Infinite loop. Infinite loop. Infinite loop. So I said it sank for a moment, making sure he all understood. So we just die here, is that it? 6 asked. If we're lucky, Thad 2 said, pulling off his glass and rubbing the bridge of his nose. The handle of the door began to rattle. All 12 eyes looked up upon it as the owners froze in place. Should we rehearse something? 5. There isn't time, Xiang 1 answered. Once that rattle starts, we have 30 seconds to 2 minutes subjectively. It's hard to tell when you're just talking to yourself all the time. If we're good to chuckle for all of them, the damned must also laugh. But the moment was not destined to linger. The latch began to slip and unslip and slip and unslip. Sub 2 nodded and grabbed up the just-in-case shotgun from its place behind his filing cabinet. Still, we have to try, don't we? The others silently agreed. Pay close attention to what you say, the Doctor 1 warned as he picked up a mark and began to write. I'm going to see if I can't figure a way out of this shit first. He was so absorbed that when he laid hands on his door and opened it, it took the open barrel of a very familiar Remington 870 in his face and what looked an awful lot like a rifled slug at the back of it to snap him out of the mathematical haze. Well, that's one way to do it. Thad heard his own voice say, but was sure he didn't speak. Step back, Dr. Xiang. Step back across the threshold right now. Eyes never leaving the front side, he complied. Switching focus, he beheld a visitor not unlike his own. A little older, more worn. Blood was slowly trickling from all of the ears and noses, and the sleeves were all covered in smudges where they had wiped it away. 6 of them. The whiteboard had been erased and rewritten and erased again, and as he watched the figure standing at it, unwrote a line and rewrote it, pausing only to press his temples and groan before moving on to the next. Before him, the stranger version of himself grew stubble and lost it. A tiny red rivulet ran towards the back, up and down his neck, as desperate pain eyes fixed on him. What are you experiencing? The Xiang behind the shotgun said as 4 other interested self looked on. Is some kind of temporal decohesion event? We haven't figured out how to stop it yet, or even if it can be stopped from in here. But we can keep more of you from coming in here with a little timing. I don't understand. One of the other gunmen's shoulders said sarcastically, no shit, neither do we. I mean, who knows how long you prime over there at the board has been in here. Without turning, the man at the board grunted and continued writing. Dr. Xiang did his best to take a photo of his work, but the plane at the back of his neck said something that had gone miss inside. But you're number 7, we're number 1 through 6, but you're also number 0. And that means you have to stay out there while we posit it out in here. The model? One of the copies in the ear threw his arms in the air and suddenly stiffened himself. Decimal error. You were off by a whole order of magnitude. Congratulations, you just ended time as we know it over a radius of 20 goddamn meters. The man behind the shotgun nodded, shoving the barrel into Thad's chest and thrusting him back out into the hallway. Now go get back out there and turn it off before you break this whole site. But what about the office door slammed closed and locked? No further answers would come, even when he beat against the door until his knuckles cracked open. Another sound saved the steady eternal rhythm of frustrated failure against the door of his own mausoleum. It did not echo down the hall. Jesus Christ, he's been gone a long time, Marcus mumbled as he pressed a button and watched another ball fire directly into the center of the model. There was a pile forming now, building up slowly around the little transmitter. How long has it been anyway? Addie didn't look up, just stared. Addie's a cute nickname for Athena, I gotta say. Just stared intently at the screen in front of her. She was like that, though. The Foundation never hired stupid people. But researcher Athena Anastasakos was so professional it made Kitterman's teeth hurt. Coupled that with a sort of fanatical devotion to figuring this kind of shit out, and it was still little wonder she was such an award-winning conversationalist. It didn't even occur to Marcus that anything was amiss until he picked up his paper cup and crossed to the water cooler. He felt sort of, is hiccup the right word? Probably nothing. Marcus, she yelped, jumping backward from the screen, steadily turning to static. Oh god, you scared me. How on earth did you get over there? I walked. With my feet. Kitterman rolled his eyes and pressed the water cooler. Oh, here we go. Press the water cooler. And rolled his eyes. With my feet. Kitterman rolled his eyes and pressed the water cooler's valve. A thin bit of tongue watched. A slow trickle of water overflowing his cup. In a matter of a quarter second, he dropped. In surprise, two faces turned white. How long has it been since he left? No, more than 3 minutes. So how did I drop all of those? He asked, pointing out the pile of tiny foam balls. They ran to the panels and tapped in the commands, slapped display screens, flicked a status light as everything started slowly to go bananas. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. Everything yelled, fingers blurring. Taka, 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 taka. Just some time to watch Marcus pull up a panel and start pulling out wires. They sparked and smoked and fumed and slapped back into place. Oh, really? Should I? Kitterman yelled back. He ran to the door, threw it open, and sprinted what must have been 30 meters down a 2-meter stretch of hallway into the chamber door. Secured with electronic locks, and they would not budge. Fuck! The noise fell flat in the stereo hall as he threw himself through the air back to the observation room. Where in the hell did he go? Probably the same place we're going if you can't shut that damn thing off. Panic comes in waves. At first, you're not even sure it's happening. Everything goes red and a tingling feeling grows out of your gut to the tips of your fingers and toes. It grabs your brain and won't let go. Synapses fire fast and you believe as every possible solution cycles through your brain once, twice, 3 times a lady. All of them are shit. It was about at this level of disoriented stupidity that Kitterman first picked up the stool and slammed it against the glass. A crack ran up and then back down and then sealed itself again. So he tried another 5 or 30 times, who counts? Before he reckoned the sanest thing to do would be just to drop the stool and scream at the panel in Payne's stupid face. That's enough, you're not helping anyone! Addie yelled as she squinted at the screen of static, desperately hoping a distortion would come through to smooth the electronics out. If only for a minute, just long enough to impart some sense about how the field looked and what the snooze alarm was doing and if it was ever going to stop. A shoulder was thrown into the door and Xiang fell through it onto the floor. We have a problem. No, really, I hadn't noticed, Marcus hollered as he hand-fisted a wall of wires from beneath the console and grabbed out his pocket knife. The doctor, Zero, wiped blood from his ear and spat some to the floor, which dried in an instant. What have you tried so far? Wiring panel, input commands, B&E, refreshing the transmission, and so pretty much everything. But whistling show tunes added. Kitterman barked as he cut a cable and watched it stitch itself up again for the 3rd time. Shit, this was bad, really bad. Everything already broken, everything already resetting. But causality was still flexible, and the fact that he had made it back into this room meant it wasn't final yet. They were not completely isolated, and one last Hail Mary was probably not out of the question. It's not as though there was much to lose. Miss Anastasakos, which is the correct time. I don't see how... Damn it, Annie, it's the temporal anomaly. What bloody time is it? Thaddeus demanded as he hopped the breaker box on the wall and threw it wide. It's 600? That doesn't... Wait. 1023. 1747? Do you either of you know what time we started transmitting? 9:30, I think. Marcus offered, recalling and sucking his finger from a minor electric shock. You think? Marcus shrugged and raised his hands, looking equal parts horrified and apologetic. It would have to do. Alright, this is a long shot, but that's all we got. Miss Anastasakos, you need to tell me when. Now! Everything went black, and the machine light came on. The pulses hung in midair, and as they waited and waited and waited. Let me just check how much more there is. Oh. 9:45 came and went. The anomaly did not resume. After a couple more rats rolled around for a day or so and scanned his office with every instrument he had clearance to know about, and a few which he didn't, and found no detectable temporal fluctuation after a painful, exhausting, ritualistic interrogation to ensure he wasn't acting under anyone else's influence, remained loyal to the Foundation objectives. After a psyche evaluation that revealed a little post-traumatic stress but otherwise a clean bill of psychiatric health and 2 weeks paid leave. Dr. Chiang sat in his office, tapping his temple, staring at the last thing he had written on the whiteboard. Red marks were everywhere, shooting this way and that, to and from impromptu diagrams and flow charts and equations that would make most JR's junior researchers blush. All of it spiraling into, out of, around, and through one central feature, an enormous black box. As we know that it did say SB2000 is a black box as well. Yes, the experiment had been a success in the matter of speaking. No one had died, at least not in a verifiable way. Yes, Faraday had confirmed that certain long wavelengths electromagnetic signals of sufficient power could alter the shape, rate of flow, direction, and endurance of any extent tachyon flux, but had he actually learned how to create a tachyon flux to manipulate? No. The black box remained black and was too costly to keep doing. Dozens were dead. 6 copies of himself were irretrievable. He had neither turned Site-70's anomalous experimentation wing into another SCP of who knows what designation. 084/281-A maybe. His name was narrowly avoided censorship on every document he had ever touched, as the Foundation disavowed all knowledge of his activities or that they had ever even deigned to hire him. It was time to stop. But as he stood to grab the erasers, silence took hold of him. He glanced upwards and noticed the clock had stopped. He pricked his ears and heard no movement outside in what should be a rush hour end of the day show of a hallway. When he turned, he saw a shadow at the door, just one. It cleared his throat and passed a parcel through the slot in the door before leaving. The clock resumed its forward march. The hall resumed its noisy bustle. On the floor, a manila envelope inside a watch. His watch. His very own model 442i automatic winding perpetual perfect time watch. It had probably been languishing in anomalous item storage these last, well, there was no telling how long, he supposed. Only that he had seen it since it was picked up after. But who else would have known that? Bound up in the first of all, let me actually click on this too. This is this is definitely leads back here, but in for penny, what does this one need? Oh yeah, gotcha, it's a extension. Okay, we'll read it. Bound up in the band, a note had written in a red line point, felt tipped marker in effects, he crumbled it. Imagine it's like now, like it's just like suddenly becomes double the length. I'm like, oh for fuck's sake. Before the second ticked over, he was back on his seat across the desk, hands forward, staring at it. But then it got him thinking. He would write the message sometime in the future. Absolutely was the only way to avoid a break. He would know the time and date. It was 1946 on August 18th, 1997. Oh, it was 46 o'clock on August 18th, 1997. Thad locked it in his memory and stored it somewhere. It wouldn't get lost and place to deliver it. He now had to make sure he knew the message and its contents so the loop could be completed, or else he was sure he didn't want to know what else. In for a penny. Well, not too bad. I don't understand, Free said, wondering if there was getting more consent. No shit, yes, definitely had so neither do we. Number 7. You're right. We are number 1. No, he isn't Thaddeus. 1, put the mark. You're right. Number 1 is also number 0. The other 4 clans. One another hall fight. What was he doing? Breaking containment like that. Stop it, 2. What are you doing? 5 hissed, wide-eyed and wild. You're going to break. No, I'm not lying anymore. He's not number 7. He's number 42,872. And he has a right to know exactly how bad we fucked up. He dropped the barrel of the shotgun and let the thread hang loose in his hands. God damn it, one. He turned in slow resignation, locked eyes with force. He just broke nearly 2.5 years of symmetry. Symmetry, is that what you call an infinite number of alternate timelines due to one cocked up experiment? One demanded. Well, it wouldn't have been if you just stuck to your own goddamn plan, 3 said, throwing an eraser across the room. Well, everyone just shut up, 4 said, rummaging for the drawer. I swear there's an emergency class B in here somewhere. Just shove it down his throat and we'll do it right and send him on his way. But before he could grab, the door slipped shut. 6 of them, of the same man, gasped in unison. Lucky number 7 simply sighed. It wasn't great. It wasn't even good. Hell, it was hardly a solution at all. But with damage done and time being a factor, the other versions of him would not have been nearly so urgent if it wasn't. He wouldn't have a chance to take a Class B. They'd probably make him forget too much anyway. No, this was home now. This room and these people in this awful experiment. He had made this sacrifice before, precisely 6 times before. And he would make it again. That is the way the Foundation operates. We secure, we contain, we protect. Even if sometimes it means one must contain oneself. Room for one more? He 7 asked through his smirk as the first ripple sent a spine of pain in one side of his head and out the other, and blood trickled unhappily out of his left ear. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, that one had a hand on his 7th shoulder and bit his one bottom lip hard, keeping the tone back. Don't be, it's my fault too. Just in that moment, a little early actually, the knob began to rattle. Lucky number 7, the true number 7 and no longer number 0, rolled his eyes. I'll just hide in the closet or something. Huh. Funny how you remember things at the last minute. Eve's cardinal sin was not buying the apple, it was failing to chew, swallow, and finish it. Do not make the same mistake, or so help us both. Oh boy, okay. Let's speed up a little bit. It's been already like 3 hours of me doing this. Hey. So now we got 2 doctors here. While this phenomenon has traditionally been indicative of spatial anomalies, it is a determination of Dr. Rosalind Axel and Tristan Bailey that the manifold entrance is consistent with an advanced implementation of modern physics. Alright, these are shorter. I mean, I'm not sure how long this is, but like, let's just see. Document number 17-1, Site 12, Monday morning, 4 January 13th, 2025. Containment area of SCP 52000. Okay, I see. It's still 2000, but it's with 5 before that. Mr. Boyd closed the hatch behind him and turned to face the containment vault's occupant. Boyd thought he looked like an old-fashioned tramp, complete with bindle and permanent 5 o'clock shadow. But yesterday he looked like a wiener, and the day before he washed up a boxer. The look wasn't new. Boyd sat down across from the entity and pulled an empty manila envelope out of his pocket. They told me that you wanted to talk. SB52000 pulled itself up to the table and grinned a toothy smile. Yep. You all been getting anxious about the dreamer, right? Perhaps. Boyd turned the envelope over in his hand. What did he know about it? SB52000 let out a long sigh and leaned back in his chair. Boy, you eggheads should get to the point quick. If I'm going to tell you that, I'll need to let you know how the world got started out. Boyd frowned. SB52000 was known for spinning stories to distract from having to answer questions. Usually it was best to play along until it could be coerced into giving a definite answer. Fine, but be quick about it. We don't have all week. SB52000 chuckled. You don't know how right you are, Chuck. He pulled up a crumpled cigarette from his jacket and placed it in his mouth. Okay, so the first thing that happened was that we had the 2 forces of the universe Greeks had on point, you know? It was the music and the dreams. Boyd nodded, drumming his fingers on his thigh beneath the table. So they banged, you know, and they made the world, but they didn't fill another space because you can't fill in nothing forever. There's a little bit left over from the days gone by. Boyd nodded and then pulled a notebook from his jacket pocket, pretending to take a note of what SCP-52000 was saying. So that's why this third rock from Fun has all the craziness pulled to it like the shits on rails. It's a storage depot for the unknowable. Would have worked like a breeze if you guys hadn't busted up the lock. It was more like a jaw. Whatever, Chuck. That's just how you made the Smoker's stupid dream witchery true. When those 2 kids got together, nothing's gonna be able to stop them. Not even flipping things around one more time. I don't understand a word you're saying. Boyd put a notebook away. And so if you don't have anything else to add to your story, I think we're done. SCP-52000 held out a hand. Wait, sit down a second. There's something I want to give you. Boyd stopped at the hatch. What? SCP-52000 reached into his own jacket and pulled out the manila envelope. Here's what a few people have said. The envelope was tossed, picked up, examined, and stuffed in the pocket. Boyd exited the hatch, locking it behind him briskly. He set off towards the records and informing Wing with the briefing and transcription of the interview. Well, a few people have said, unusual incidents unit. So we have electronic copy below as per federal records, UIU file 1976-34, case file, Blue's front door. Some possible portal or state that causes immediate death upon contact. Object name, object of note, black portal, irregularity, cross-reference, destructive, transport, immobile, locale, physical description, a cave in North Dakota which has an entrance in the form of a flat, non-reflective black wall. Wall is immobile and does not respond to provocation, causes immediate death on contact. Sex, NA, height, NA, all NA, weight, build, race, hair, eyes, attributes, capabilities, doesn't move or take any initiative when touched, causes objects in person to be pulled into it and disappear. Purpose, motive, possibly a trap, naturally occurring anomaly or a misunderstood aspect of nature. NA, behavior, no behavior, objects not believed to be a living, no evidence related to case 1976. Is that also the... Let me double check. 1976. Nope. It's not what I thought it was. Okay. Bureau records. Current status currently noted with flag guards due to the remoteness of location. Chance of being discovered are slim. Crimes not applicable. Sentencing not applicable. History of UIU actions discovered. In 1976, while a US geology survey turned over to the UIU shortly thereafter and secured since then. Very little action has taken place since then, and other than the tragic loss of Agent Brom to the object when he accidentally came in contact with it while doing field work at the location. And then we have, I wonder what this one is, Doctor of Entertainment. Dear Mr. We regret to inform you that your toy proposal has been rejected for failing to meet the following criteria. They do adults, animals, children, and pre-children. This violates the Entertainment Super Safety Guarantee. Fun fact that after rigorous testing has rated at a 0.0. Does not have a market viability for future additions or innovations due to being 100% fair to the consumer. Unpackable. Thank you for your interest, Dr. Entertainment, and we hope to see you innovation again soon. The factory. Shipping order 10,000. Bulk distribution. Payment paid in full, but product not delivered. Action. Relationship with distributor discontinued. Prometheus Lab. Grant request for... Do we have oh no, Marshall Collin Dog. Okay. Grant request for location of high value entity in space. Problem. The Prometheus Lab's physics lab has proven the existence of an object which could be used to dispose of any type of matter harmlessly. A little to no cost past initial investment to find the object. Solution. In order to locate the Prometheus Labs team would need additional funding to dedicate most of their mathematicians to this purpose. Business case, once located, Prometheus Labs will save massively on the disposal of a high-risk material that would otherwise need special handling procedures in order to nullify or put out of sight and mind. Use of funding. Currently, the only need for funding is the researcher salaries to give them the time to find more precise location of this object. They have only just proven to exist. Further costs can be estimated once the object is located. Known issues. It may not be possible to reach and return the object within the lifetime of any current employees of the Prometheus Labs Corporation. Chaos Insurgency. DC Cyro catalog number SC55/2024. Document type compilation. Date received 9th 18th 1955 through 9th 18th 2024. Delta command eyes only. Operation status open. Forward. This object is to never come into the hands of the insurgency. All steps to secure Site 12. Foundation location of the object are critical to maintain. These security procedures are to be kept secret. from the SCP Foundation. Hereafter, we of Delta Command document the steps of the plan as transcribed by the engineers of the Chaos Insurgency. 1. Step 55/6. Security parameters such as entrenching in the surrounding countryside have been enacted. Anomalous countermeasures have been placed in the uninhabited areas surrounding Site 12, which, due to its remote location, is not accessed or widely known by persons outside the Foundation and Insurgency. Further measures to be taken as the situation around Site 12 changes. Number 2, Step 24/88. The Foundation appears to be losing control of some of the frontier sites due to the remoteness of the location and the containment difficulties suffered by the organization over the years. Efforts must be taken to preserve the security of Site 12, including by capturing the site intact and handing it over to another group which has more stability, such as Global Occult Coalition. And we're full of circles of disquieting. You want us to add what to the act? WG. Report on groups of interest. High COTBG 5. Memorandum to Site Director Stone. We currently believe that the research object has been written about in the scripture for various religious groups dealing with paranormal activity. They refer to it anomalously in terminology that describe it as an empty and at other times like a portal to the underworld or similar theological concepts. Descriptions generally refer to it as all black and hostile. The similarities to the research objects are obvious. As such, we should take precautions against, any word of this entity being held, as it may incur an attack by these organizations. Therefore, we can recommend that the current in construction Site 12 be selected as the location for the entity due to its remote location and high security. Colonel Ritz, American Secure Containment Initiatives. Are we cool yet? No, never. Title, Much Ado About Nothing. Material requirement. The piece itself is singular, having been created by the artist and using a method which has not been disclosed for artistic reasons. It is unique, and the artist does not recommend attempting to replicate it. Abstract, a black star composed of a non-reflective anomalous material. When touched, pulls the user into an undisclosed location in deep space. The person is not recoverable, so viewers are recommended to bring secondary entities if they wish to view the contact-making portion of the piece. Should be displayed behind glass on a white pedestal with a small porthole to allow for direct contact with the object. Intent. The piece was created as a commentary on how really and totally alone we are in this universe. You can find yourself in any location out there in the cosmos and you're not going to catch a ride. You'll be by yourself until you die. That's what awaits you up there, us up there. Note, I cannot really display this thing anymore. It's cool, but nobody really seems to want to look at it. I want to store it if we can find a use for it. And what is this then? Oh, okay, what is this? Shadow Child. Alias a shadow person, chip, triple, nobody. No, it doesn't seem to be nobody, but make no somebody. A being repelled by light and made of shadows, very dangerous, consumes everything in path. Can we like enlarge this image? It's Grimace from McDonald's. Threat high, difficult to avoid all shadows. Interest, possible attempt to flush me out. 1. Follows, tracks, and finds me with alarming regularity. 2. No constant physical form. 3. Does not live. 4. Older than the oldish dirt. And here we have I can't explain it. Perhaps it is a case of the town not being big enough for 2. This thing is ought to be avoided and Hellstar out to avoid it. Not what I expected. Didn't expect fucking meteors. Related. Foundation of the collector may be able to keep it at bay or remove it. Thing is very old. May have evolved past destructibility. Location unknown, following me, so it's close to me. Site 12. Sunday evening, 6 o'clock, January 19th, 2025. Containment area SCP 52000. How did you get these documents? SCP-52000 leaned back, shaking his shackles. You know, this isn't what I hoped you would think of them. Boy didn't respond, choosing instead to tap his pencil against the clipboard and raise a single eyebrow. None of the usual dodging of inquiry cat and mouse would be tolerated today. Man, I'm just trying to help you guys. You know what you're coming up on the number. You got the child, but you don't understand it. What's there to understand? It wants to turn the clock back to suck up everything with the taint of the original flaw, the big glitch that acts as your job security. SB-5200 attempted to wipe his nose on his sleeve, but the chains didn't allow enough mobility. His face twisted as he suppressed a sneeze. Boyd narrowed his eyes and made a note. How do you know? Why are you helping us? You could easily be trying to undermine us. I know, because that's the whole reason I exist. I was made specifically for this moment right here. For you to find me and for me to help you out when the time came. Who sent you? Every freaking body that doesn't want to die when this thing starts knuckling down, dummy. There's a lot of vested interest in existing for a lot of people. SB-5200 leaned forward from backwards and began to whisper. And off the record, you guys need the help. What do they know about the object? SB-5200 groaned and attempted to rub his brow. Have you not been listening at all? Look, it's going to change into something much, much closer to how it initially was. That's the deal. That's what you need to prepare for. When that starts, you need to play all your cards right to keep it from going back to how it likes things. Non-existent. Boyd's brow creased slightly as he took more notes. So if you're here to help, do you know what to do if it's stalling? Your guess is as good as mine, Chuck. From my end, it is all she, he, and they wrote. Hope we all don't die. Exiting file document 017-1, signing off, edit the desk, logging off 057. And now the other one, which is also nice and short. Whew, we actually did it. Nice. Multi-101. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Trevor Bailey. I'm head of the Department of Extra Universal Affairs, and this is an introduction seminar for Extra Universal Operations. I know that's a mouthful, so just call us Multi-U. Space SCP? Sorry, wrong room. You're looking for Dr. Cartwright, 3 doors down on the left. No problem at all. Now so guys, can't figure out directions in 2 dimensions. Now then, alternate universes, else for short. We still fumbling in the dark for the most part on the exact principles, but we do know enough to make a seminar about it. And before you ask, yes, everything is possible. If you end up here in Multi-U, you will see quite a lot of it, which in reality is an infinitesimal nothing of what's really out there. Infinity and all that. Did you know that there's just a universe where the entire foundation is dedicated to punching sharks? Yeah, I do know that. I learned it. Or that Clef is Satan in another one? Just some fun facts I like throwing out there. Lots of weird stuff in Multi-U. Now then, back to making the infinite understandable. Around here, we use the HBF classification system. Hub, branch, floater. Hub universes are the big ones, metaphorically speaking, of course. There's not big so much in the size as they are in importance. Hubs are the basis of branches, just as branches will turn into more branches. Branches always have some sort of change from whatever they are branching off of. It might be one tiny thing like you didn't brush your teeth this morning, or it might be some massive cultural appeal or extra class event or something like that, but all of them will be based off of another universe all the way back to the hub. Now floaters, they don't have any apparent connection to anything else, no hub, no branch. They're the ones when the entire universe is made up of asbestos and marshmallow fluff, or the ones inhabited solely by rotting fish heads speaking in Cockney accents. Now, now, like I said before, you're going to find some really bizarre stuff, not like you won't see any of that elsewhere. But there's a realization everywhere comes to sooner or later. It's going to break you. It breaks everyone eventually. Normal skips, they're scary because they're wrong. They're all something that isn't right. Most people can't deal with that. They know that there's something wrong here and then push it on the side and chalk it up to another day at work. No such luck in Multi-U. When you're dealing with alts, most times the things you see are exactly the way they should be. Somehow the procession of events and position of atoms has created a universe where whatever you're seeing is perfectly normal and acceptable. There's a universe where your favorite childhood television show is completely and utterly real. There are also plenty of universes that will take that and run it through the meat grinder. Now, before we get too carried away with all the things, I've seen alt operations are normally pretty simple. Get in, look around, pop on back. Don't leave anything behind, don't take anything back with you. Maybe the research team will authorize a few follow-ups. That said, there are several very important guidelines to follow. 1. Observe. Don't interact unless you absolutely must. Remember, you just skip in the scenario, and the more differences there are between our world and whatever world you're going to stick out worse than Bigfoot at a Christmas party. We don't want that. 2. Pack light, keep on your toes, document everything, and remember where the exit is. 3. If it's dangerous or pointless enough that there's no sense in authorizing a follow-up expedition, then don't. Just because you might have a D-class at your disposal does not mean that you have some sort of a quota. 4. If there's something dangerous enough to bleed over and mess up our universe, close the door behind you, or even better, destroy it. It's not worth risking our own universe to study some minor cultural variances. 5. It's best practice to avoid meeting your alternate self. There won't be necessarily an explosive waveform collapse, but we haven't ruled that out yet. Biggest hazard is a psychological just from observing yourself and your own behavior from the outside. Turns out most people don't like what they see. But if it can't be avoided and you do happen to meet yourself while out on a jaunt, you should immediately... Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was supposed to start at 2:30. Okay, well then this here, everyone, is what some people call a problem. Do I prefer the term learning experience? Can anyone tell me what you should? If you meet yourself, you with a beard. No, you do not kill them immediately. Okay, you with the mom tattoo, and nice touch by the way. No, let's just make things worse. Sorry I'm late, everyone. I'm Dr. Trevor Bailey, and then... Oh my. Well, then I'm afraid we have to wrap this up now, so I can go and solve this. Refreshment are in break room 4 down the hall. Do you see that one guy's face? The one with the mole on his nose? Good lord, he looked like he was about to pee himself. And then there was a lady in the back, the one with the bow. She looked like she had seen a ghost. So they made this on purpose. Definitely don't want her here. Then you see a lot worse things than ghosts at Multi-U. Yeah, you get to see the doctors. Bailey. But there was that one guy at 10:30. The way he was claiming us, and possibly had us figured out. Maybe might want to change up the plan for next time, Trev. I'm Tom. He's Trev. You're Tristan. Oh right, that was a real jackass, wasn't he? And we have Tristan here. Okay, I think I read this one before. Tristan Bailey, I think I read this one before, but hey, we got it again. We got it again. And we're done. I don't think I want to talk too much about what I just read, because I have a couple calls to take and food to eat, and I'm so tired. But hey, man, Happy New Year, everybody. Let's hope that this year, 2026, let's make it a good one. Even if the world decides to try to tear us down, let's just, have a small group of people that you care for, and you make your own little world and make it happy. That's all I have to say. Don't let the people with like negative vibes and aura and intentions come into your world and ruin it. Just be with people that you know for a fact. Yeah, I can chill with these people, and yeah, live that out. Make memories with them. Other than that, that was with you, and I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to 2026. Ciao.